On the day I married Shinbai, his cherished first love jumped to her death on our wedding night. My husband held that woman's corpse and cried himself hoarse. He said, "Ying, if you hadn't pushed her so relentlessly, how could she have died?" Ever since, on every one of our wedding anniversaries, he visits her grave dressed in a black suit. "He killed my cat and forced me to abort our child," he said. "Farang is dead. How can you be smiling like this? For the rest of your life, you must live." In repentance, when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to my university days, and the hibiscus was still alive, and I still haven't married him. There's still time for everything. This time, I'll let him and the hibiscus have each other, locked together for eternity, never to part. 1. The May sky had shed spring's gentle warmth, taking on a touch of scorching heat. The sun blazed with a golden brilliance. I watched Shinbai dart across the basketball court, sweating profusely. It wasn't until the game ended that I snapped back to reality. I had been reborn, back in my university days. Next up should be the classic scene, Move Farang bringing water to Shinbai and I smashed her water bottle. Thoughts slowly echoed in my mind. In my past life, just as Shinbai's game was about to end, I eagerly ran to the supermarket to buy his favorite drink. I also bought water for his teammates. After paying, I realized that my best friend Hibiscus, who had agreed to come to the supermarket with me to buy water, was nowhere to be seen. I didn't think much of it, figuring she must have had something come up. I sent her a text, then carried the heavy case of bottled water toward the sports field. As I approached, I could hear the cheers coming from that direction. I quickened my pace, only to find Shinbai surrounded by a crowd on the basketball court. In his hand was a water bottle adorned with a Peppa Pig design. That bottle was unmistakably Mu Furong's, and without a hint of hesitation, he unscrewed the cap and took a drink. Shinbai and I grew up together. When we were kids, the elders in our families would joke about arranging a marriage for us. Ever since we were 7 or 8, he loved calling me his little wife, which always made me blush. That's how I knew Shinbai was a neat freak. In high school, we often studied together. Once, I accidentally drank from his water bottle. He didn't say a word, but his handsome brows were deeply furrowed. Later, I found the glass I had drunk from in the trash. From that moment on, I knew he had a profound sense of cleanliness, just like his mother. When I saw Shinbai drinking from Furong's cup, it suddenly dawned on me that the two of them had been engaging in a deeper level of communication behind my back. Had they exchanged bodily fluids? So, he no longer feels a physical aversion towards her. In an instant, I felt so disgusted I wanted to vomit. At the same time, I also remembered that, at some point, whenever Shinbai bought me bubble tea, there was always a mango-flavored one. I'm allergic to mangoes, but Hibiscus loves mango-flavored things. Whenever he got me a gift, Hibiscus would always receive an identical one. In a past life, I voiced my discontent about this. He just smiled and said, "Ying, she's your best friend, and she's not treated well at home. If we don't treat her kindly, who will?" That seems to make sense. In my past life, my thinking was incredibly naive. I never pondered deeper questions. In fact, before this basketball game, it never even crossed my mind that Shinbai could like Mu Furong. After all, he had promised me long ago that he would marry no one but me too. In kindergarten, he would always save the candy the teacher gave out for me. In elementary school, when other kids pulled my pigtails, he would pull me behind him and fight them. He took on 5 of them by himself, beaten black and blue. He said that as a man, it was his natural duty to protect me. In middle school, in the bloom of youth, romantic feelings began to stir. The other students kept their distance, afraid of getting a reputation for puppy love. He bought me soda, caught cicadas for me, and picked flowers for me. He once confided in me, "Ying, we are meant to be together, so it's perfectly fine if we're a little closer than others right now." I smiled, feeling a bit shy, my heart fluttering like a startled deer, my expression sweet and gentle. In high school, amidst the heavy academic workload, we became the most brilliant splash of color in each other's lives. To be with him, I gave up my strengths, chose science, and poured all my energy into studying, grinding through practice problems day and night. The hard work paid off. I finally got into the same university as him. From then on, we were inseparable, a couple that made everyone green with envy. So, in my past life, when I discovered his secret affair with Mu Furong, I couldn't hold back. I charged forward and smashed her water cup violently onto the ground. He froze for a moment, probably thinking I'd embarrassed him in front of everyone, and then he shoved me hard. As luck would have it, I stepped back onto a loose stone, lost my footing, and fell flat on my back. It was a completely undignified sight. The surrounding classmates erupted into loud, mocking laughter. He acted as if he hadn't seen me fall, bending down to pick up that pink water bottle instead. My tailbone hit the hard concrete floor, and the pain brought tears to my eyes. As I struggled to get up, I noticed my palm must have scraped against the ground, leaving a bloody graze nearby. seeing me rise from the ground. Mu Furong hurriedly said in a pitiful tone, Ying, please don't be angry. I just saw brother Shen was so hot, sweating buckets under the sun. I was worried he might get dehydrated. As she spoke, she lowered her head and twisted her fingers. Tear stains streaked her pale face. A sight truly pitiful enough to move anyone's heart. While saying this, she even reached out to take my hand. I shook off her hand, and she hurriedly retreated to Shenbai's side. Brother Shen, this is all my fault. I shouldn't have let you drink from my water cup. I just saw you were sweating so much. I'm sorry. She apologized repeatedly. Please don't be upset with Sister Ying. It's all my fault. I didn't think it through. Shenbai glared coldly and insisted I apologize to Mu Furong. Saying I was being unreasonable, he even asked me, what's the big deal about taking a sip from someone else's water cup? Was I supposed to just stand by and watch him die of thirst? Ying, I never knew you could be so petty. Furong is your friend, your bestie. You can't even tolerate her. Once we're married, are you going to be jealous of every female mosquito that comes near me? His buddies laughed exaggeratedly. Others teased me, saying my jealousy just proved how much I cared about Shenbai. Lucky you, Shen. The crowd teased and jeered that day. I turned and walked away, crying all afternoon. Later, he came to comfort me again, and his eyes welled up when he saw the wound on my hand. Ying, I'm sorry. I just came off the court and was so thirsty. When I saw her holding a water bottle out for me, I just couldn't resist. I didn't know you cared this much. It's all my fault. But Furong is your best friend, your roommates. I only see her as a little sister. Really, nothing more. I was worried you might accidentally trigger her condition. I was a bit anxious and gave you a push. Please don't be upset. That evening, he took me out to dinner, bought me gifts, and looked at me with eyes full of affection, the kind you'd even give a dog. Yes, Mu Furong suffers from depression. She said that being at home was suffocating. No matter what she did, it was always wrong. She came from a family with extreme son preference, where her younger brother was treated like a king. Her grandmother wouldn't even allow her to eat at the table. She could only eat her brother's leftovers. Hibiscus told us, I really can't stand my brother. He spits into the food while he's eating, and I had no choice but to eat his leftovers. If I didn't, I'd go hungry. I ate, all the while feeling sick to my stomach. Back then, everyone in our dorm felt sorry for her and tried to comfort her. Given her depression, we always gave in to her and let things slide. 3. Hey, aren't you going to buy water? The voice of Hibiscus sounded in my ear. It snapped me out of my thoughts. In my past life, she was the one who sent me off to buy water, only to eagerly bring some to Shen by herself, a blatant declaration of war against me. I glanced at the Peppa Pig water bottle she was cradling and said with a smile, why buy water? Didn't you bring your own? Perhaps it was my meaningful smile, but for a moment, it seemed to fluster her. I stood up and ran in the direction of the school's little convenience store. Was Hibiscus under the impression I was going to buy water? Yeah, I went to buy water. But I only got one bottle. I twisted off the cap and gulped down several big mouthfuls. Under this blazing sun, I'm getting roasted like dried salted fish, and I don't even like basketball. Alright, besides the earth, I'm not really a fan of any ball sports. I picked up my phone and called my mom. After a bit of small talk, I got down to business. Mom, I'm telling you a secret. Shenbai is seeing someone. Ha ha ha. I said into the phone, my tone light and cheerful. On the other end of the line, my mom was clearly taken aback. After a long pause, she asked, Ying, what's going on? I thought you and Shenbai were together. Mom, how could you get that idea? I quickly replied, Shenbai and I just grew up together. Honestly, it's all your fault for teasing us about it since we were kids, but between him and me, it's just that we grew up together, so we look a bit closer than other people. That's all. Mom, think about it. We used to pee together and play in the mud as kids. How could we possibly date? I deliberately laughed lightly and added, let me tell you, the aloof heartthrob at our school is really handsome. I'm going to try my best to win him over. Enough about me. Let's talk about Shenbai. On the other end of the line, my mom sounded a bit confused. After a long pause, she finally said, alright, let's talk about Shenbai. How is he? Is he really dating someone? Yeah. He's even sharing a water bottle with her. That's not the point. The point is, he landed a girlfriend and didn't even treat us to a meal. Don't you think that's outrageous? My mom said with grave sincerity, outrageous. Then, she asked me what the deal was with that aloof campus heartthrob. I told her I was working on it. We chatted like that for over 10 minutes. Just as I was about to hang up, my mom suddenly asked, Ying, give me a straight answer. Are you really not dating Shenbai? Mom, it's possible with anyone else, but with him, absolutely not. I said this with absolute conviction. On the other end of the line, My mother seemed to breathe a sigh of relief when I hung up the phone. I also let out a sigh of relief. In my past life, I was naive and kind, and knew nothing about the family business, but in this life, I know this is a critical juncture. The Shin family's cash flow is in serious trouble, and they are seeking financing. If the financing falls through, the Shin family risks bankruptcy. In my past life, my family invested because Uncle Shin told my mother, "Your Ying's heart belongs entirely to my boy. Sooner or later, we'll be one family." In this life, I made it clear to my mother that I do not love Shinbai. We will not get involved in the Shin family's business. Letting go of Shinbai feels truly wonderful. The sense of lightness and joy when one stops loving is genuinely good for both mind and body. In my past life, I succumbed to depression and died of breast cancer under Shinbai's emotional abuse. In this life, for the sake of my own health, I choose to love myself a little more. For sipping my drink, I walked over to the court. Just as I expected, Shinbai was there, tilting his head back and gulping water from his Peppa Pig cup. His Adam's apple bobbed in the sunlight. Spotting me, he quickly stopped drinking and started walking toward me. "Ying, where did you go?" he asked with a smile. "Oh, did you get water for the team?" I shrugged and laughed. "Not yet. The store's just over there, only a few steps away." As I spoke, my gaze fell on the water bottle in his hand. He seemed to notice something and hurriedly handed the bottle to Farong. Hibiscus took the cup, a flicker of disappointment in her eyes that was almost imperceptible. Then, in a soft voice, she said, "Ying, I think Shinbai was just really thirsty, so I let him take a few sips from my cup. Please don't get the wrong idea." I feigned complete confusion and asked, "What wrong idea?" "Oh," I continued with a smile, "Hibiscus, you don't have a thing for Shinbai, do you?" Hibiscus's face was pale, and she was nervously twisting the hem of her clothes. A flicker of panic also flashed in Shinbai's eyes, covering my mouth. I laughed and said, "What's going on? University is the perfect place for romance. Hibiscus, if you like Shinbai, just like him, what? Are you trying to avoid making it official to save on a celebratory dinner?" Shinbai suddenly snapped, "Enough. Ying, you should know when to stop with the jokes," I sneered. What a pair of hypocrites. After rolling around in the sheets together, what's the point of pretending? Shinbai and his team won the game, so they went out for a barbecue dinner that night. They invited me, but I didn't go. Hibiscus went instead. She came back quite late. She seemed to have drunk a lot. Her face was flushed, and she kept talking about Shinbai. I pretended not to hear. Before I knew it, it was the beginning of the month. That day, only Hibiscus and I were in the dorm. She suddenly asked me, "Ying, hasn't your mom sent you your living allowance for this month yet?" I nodded, gave a quiet hum, and was about to go back to memorizing vocabulary. Hibiscus said, "Well, could you give me my living allowance back?" I almost burst out laughing and asked pointedly, "Farong, if you need living expenses, you should ask your mother for them. Why are you coming to me?" In my past life, Mu Farong was always in our dormitory crying her heart out, saying her mother favored sons over daughters and wouldn't give her any living expenses. She even said that since she was already in college and an adult, she should be self-reliant. She was told to find a part-time job while attending university. I was a child who grew up sheltered and spoiled. How could I possibly understand such things? So, filled with righteous indignation, I decided to take 3,000 out of my monthly allowance of over 10,000 to support her. Little did I expect that, as the support continued, she would start demanding it from me as if it were her rightful due. 5. I had already thought of a response early on and said with a laugh, "Mr. Mu, that's not quite right. In the past, when I saw you were in a tight spot financially, I helped out where I could. Helping you out was a matter of friendship between us as roommates. Not helping you would have been perfectly within my rights. After all, my family doesn't run a charity. I've fallen for a guy." At this point, I put on a dreamy expression, propping my chin in my hands, gazing upward at a 45-degree angle with a poignant, bittersweet look. "I want to save up some money, buy him a gift, and then confess my feelings," I said. Hibiscus had originally intended to play the pity card and ask me for financial support. Upon hearing my words, she was utterly stunned, her mouth agape wide enough to fit an ostrich egg. After a long pause, she finally stammered, "Ying, aren't you and Shinbai a couple? How could you confess your feelings to someone else?" I smiled. So she knew all along, Shinbai and I were actually in a relationship. I said on purpose, "Classmate Mu, you must have misunderstood. Shinbai and I just grew up together. The elders in our families were just teasing us for fun. How could we possibly be a couple? Speaking of which, I really have to blame Shinbai. He has absolutely no sense of boundaries, which has scared off any potential suitors for me in college. I think I'll keep a bit of distance from him from now on." See, last time he won the game, I didn't even go to the celebration dinner, At that, I threw my arms wide open and exclaimed dramatically, "Sweet romance, here I come." At first, Hibiscus's expression was quite unpleasant, but then she immediately burst into laughter, laughing heartily. She probably thinks that with me out of the picture, Shinbai is hers for the taking. She could climb the social ladder in one fell swoop by marrying into a wealthy family. That afternoon, Shinbai called me and asked to meet at the campus cafe. I went, ready to have it out with him. After we sat down in the cafe, he got straight to the point and asked me, Ying, what do you mean by this? What? I pretended not to understand and asked, Shinbai, if you have something to say, just say it directly. We've been together for so long, and now, without a word, you say you want to find some guy to date, you like someone else. His voice suddenly rose several notches. This caused many people in the cafe to glance over in our direction, ready to get the scoop on the drama. I smiled calmly and said, Shinbai, when were we ever in a relationship? Just because our elders joked about it a couple of times, or because we've known each other since childhood, you think that's love? He shot to his feet, pointing at me, and said, Ying, you're nothing but a fickle woman. I loved you with all my heart. I spoiled you. Ever since we were kids, I've picked flowers and caught cicadas for you, gotten into fights on your behalf, and tutored you with your homework, and now, just because we're in college, you're ready to erase all of that. His expression was one of extreme agitation, and he even shouted, Classmates, you tell me, is this fair? The campus cafe was still fairly crowded. I stood up, pulled a few items from my bag, and tossed them onto the table. Shinbai, don't act like you've been so devoted to me. What about the time you booked a hotel room with Mu Furong and exchanged bodily fluids? Why don't you mention that? If we were really in a relationship, wouldn't that count as cheating? I thought, since we grew up together, if you didn't like me and preferred another girl, I could understand that. What's this? Now I'm the one who's promiscuous. You couldn't control yourself and slept with another woman, and you have the nerve to come here and call me promiscuous. As I spoke, I threw that stack of indecent photos onto the table and the floor, grabbed my bag and walked out without a second glance. 6. After I was reborn, I immediately hired a paparazzo to tail Shinbai and Mu Furong, with orders to get intimate photos of the two. Actually, this thing wasn't meant for Shinbai after all. He's single, she's single. If he wants to cheat and fool around, that's entirely his business. I just need to keep my head straight, not be a lovesick fool like in my past life, with nothing but romance on my mind. My goal is to get solid evidence and quietly pass it to my parents, so they understand that there's no future between Shinbai and me. No matter what the Shin family says, don't invest a penny in them this time. I absolutely won't give Shinbai the leverage to tie me down for life with his family's company, nor will I grant him the qualifications to become the group's CEO. Before nightfall, rumors were already spreading across campus about Shinbai from the finance department two-timing his partners. Hey, did you guys hear, right? Typical finance majors, you guys really know how to play the game, hooking up with another girl while accusing your childhood sweetheart of having a crush on someone else. Whoa, that's some serious tea. I dug it up. The other woman's name is Mu Furong, and she's actually in the same dorm as the childhood sweetheart. Oh, what do you know? That Hibiscus even received sponsorship from Qingmei. Poor little Qingmei. Who knows if she really fell for someone else or just made up an excuse? I bet it was just an excuse. What else could she have done? That man has no shame. After pulling such a disgraceful stunt himself, he dares to accuse his girlfriend of being fickle. Back then, I threw the photos at Shinbai, and a few fell to the ground. Some busybody picked them up and posted them on the school's public forum. Given their rather explicit nature, they went viral instantly. Everyone was gossiping, mocking, and hurling scorn and insults all at once. As for our dorm, everyone knew from the start that Shinbai and I were childhood sweethearts. Empty. The arranged marriage they'd been talking about since I was a child was an open secret in our family. My support for the Hibiscus is known to everyone in my dorm and throughout the neighborhood. Now that the photos have been exposed, everyone is pointing fingers at Hibiscus, filled with contempt and disdain. Strawberry Roll from the bunk below me was the first to lash out. Ying, after all the kindness you've shown Hibiscus, how could she have the nerve to do something so shameless? Don't even mention it. I'm mortified. To think I share a dorm with a woman who has no sense of shame, no bottom line. Little Iris chimed in from beside me, trying to offer comfort. I waved my hand magnanimously and said, what angers me most in all this is Shinbai. I mean, if he likes someone else, he should just be upfront with me, right? He's stringing Hibiscus along on one hand, while on the other, he's pretending to be all sweet and flirty with me, even asking to meet up just to criticize me. Have you no shame? My two roommates cursed in unison. What a two-timing scumbag. Hibiscus, who had been eavesdropping at the door, wore a stormy expression. 7. From that day on, Hibiscus was completely ostracized by everyone. After all, everyone has their own moral compass, or at least a basic sense of right and wrong. Stealing someone else's boyfriend is something everyone looks down on in our dorm. Strawberry Roll was the most principled one and often couldn't resist making a few pointed remarks at her. What shocked me the most was that, even after all that, Hibiscus actually went and complained to our dorm advisor, accusing our whole room of being snobs who bullied and ostracized her for being poor. The dorm advisor called us in for a talk. Before I could even get a word in, Iris had already launched into a vivid and well-organized account of the whole situation. Advisor, we weren't bullying her, we just didn't want to hang out with her. God knows, Ingyin gave her money and clothes, and in the end, she stole her boyfriend. For those of us who haven't done anything, who knows how she might stab us in the back in the future. If we can't handle her, we can only keep our distance. The counselor, being a fair-minded person, naturally didn't have much to say about it. I never expected that. On the way home from school that day, Mu Furong would stop me. Ying, what exactly are you trying to say? She asked me. I was curious. What was I trying to say? I smiled faintly and said, Mu Furong, you like Shinbai. If you two want to be together, I have no objection. But that doesn't stop me from looking down on you from the bottom of my heart. I don't want to see you. Strawberry Roll grabbed my arm and said, come on, Ingyin, let's go. Don't pay her any mind. Hibiscus's eyes were red, on the verge of tears, as she said loudly and deliberately, you're just a bunch of snobs who look down on the poor and fawn over the rich. You see my family has no money, so you suck up to Ying. Iris shot her a fierce glare and declared loudly, you have the nerve to steal someone's boyfriend, even when you're broke. With that, she turned and walked away. In fact, after the affair between Hibiscus and Shinbai came to light, the two of them began flaunting their relationship openly. Who knows what got into Hibiscus? She started throwing tantrums at Shinbai, demanding this and that, insisting on having everything I had. She looked down on clothes that cost a couple hundred yuan, thought unbranded bags were too embarrassing to carry, and dismissed jewelry from Taobao as cheap trash. She wanted clothes costing thousands, bags worth tens of thousands, and jewelry made of gold, jade, pearls, and precious gems. Shinbai had a generous allowance, but he often needed to foot the bill for his pack of freeloading friends when they went out to eat, drink, and have fun, playing the big spender with reckless extravagance. When spending time with Mu Furong, he could certainly afford to buy little trinkets here and there, a few hundred yuan, or even the occasional 1,000 yuan splurge, was within his means. However, when it came to purchasing luxury bags or gold bracelets costing tens of thousands, he simply couldn't manage it. He started borrowing money from friends and making excuses to ask his family for cash. Initially, the Shin family was unaware of Shinbai's relationship with Mu Furong. The Shin family's cash flow has hit a major crisis, putting them at serious risk of bankruptcy. Mr. Shen has been scrambling everywhere to raise funds. Naturally, in a situation like this, turning to close friends and family is the most obvious place to start. The Shins approached my family early on, but my parents are quite cautious when it comes to business matters and said they needed more time to think it over later. After my mom told my dad about Shinbai and Hibiscus, my dad was furious and immediately invested in another project. I knew about that project. Based on my past life's experience, it was a real cash cow, so I made a point to subtly hint at it to my mom. My parents are smart people. After their due diligence, they decided to invest in this project. When Mr. Shin found out, he came to our house and, inevitably, berated my parents. He accused them of disregarding their past friendship and refusing to lend him a hand. My father just smiled and gave vague, non-committal responses. Then, Mr. Shin couldn't help but complain to me. Olji, I know my family's cash flow is in trouble and we're facing the risk of bankruptcy. That's why you're unwilling to invest. But come on, you have to admit, your Ying's heart is completely set on my boy. Your Yi family and mine, we're going to be one family sooner or later. What are you saving this little bit of money for? 8. Listen to that. Is that even human speech? Or, to put it another way, your daughter loves my son. You only have one daughter, so all your assets will belong to my son sooner or later. Whether you hand them over now or later, they'll be his. What are you trying to hide? To put it bluntly, it's a blatant case of preying on a family with no heir. Hearing this, my mother couldn't hold back a cold laugh. Old Shen, when has my Ying ever liked your boy? They just grew up together and went to school together. That's all. Don't you dare tarnish my Ying's reputation. And that's not all. Your boy has been seeing someone at school for a while now. Oh, and I hear she's mentally unstable. Shenbai certainly has unique taste. With that, My mother tossed the stack of photos I'd given her right at Mr. and Mrs. Shen in an instant. The elderly Shen couple's faces fell. The Shen family's financing fell through, their bank loans came due, and the bank filed a lawsuit. Not only were all of the Shen family's assets frozen, but even their properties were about to be auctioned off by the court. Shenbai was completely unaware of all this, with the goal of marrying Shenbai, and now that the obstacle, was out of the picture, Mu Furong mustered all her energy, coaxing him with gentle and attentive affection. This, on some level, provided immense satisfaction to Shenbai's ego and his sense of male superiority. However, the good times didn't last. Just when Mu Furong thought her relationship with Shenbai was a sure thing, Shenbai's mother came to the university and showed up directly at our dormitory. She slapped Mu Furong right across the face. Then, Mrs. Shen grabbed Mu Furong by the hair and began beating her savagely. "I'll beat you to death, you shameless bitch, you crazy slut, you little whore." Mrs. Shen hurled abuse and screamed insults. Hibiscus was beaten until she was sobbing. At first, she didn't even realize that the fierce old woman standing across from her was Shenbai's own mother. The whole situation escalated to the point where the head of the academic affairs office had to get involved. It got so out of hand that we ended up calling the police. Of course, I also made a call to summon Shenbai to the scene. Only then did Mrs. Shen relent, and the two sides began to mediate. Since we were all in the same dormitory, we tagged along as well. Mrs. Shen kept insisting that her son and I were meant to be, blaming it all on Hibiscus, who she said had bewitched her precious boy like some siren. I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Blame Hibiscus? Seriously, why doesn't she ever blame her son for not being able to keep it in his pants? In my past life, she manipulated me the same way. She said that Hibiscus was the one who truly loved her son, who would die for him and me. I already got her son, so why didn't I cherish him properly? In my past life, I was just blindly love-struck, thinking Shenbai could do no wrong. The fault was mine, and the Hibiscus's. It had nothing to do with him. Having a brain is a good thing, but if it's filled with nothing but romantic notions, you might as well not have one. The police asked me what happened. How should I know what happened? So, as I was saying, Shenbai and I grew up together. When we were kids, our parents would even joke about us, but we're all grown up now. He's fallen for Mu Furong, and I've fallen for someone else. There's absolutely nothing between us. It's common knowledge at our school that Shenbai and Mu Furong are in a relationship. It's gotten physical. They're sleeping together. After hearing what I had to say, the police officer could only try to calm Shen's mother down. Mrs. Shen kept making a scene, refusing to let it go. She demanded Shenbai break up with Mu Furong and forced him to apologize to me. She even said to me, "Ying, Shenbai was just temporarily led astray by that little tramp. Please don't be angry." I told her with a smile that I wasn't the least bit upset. "Auntie, I'm thrilled for Shenbai that he's found a girlfriend. Why on earth would I be angry?" 9. It was only after his mother's outburst that Shenbai discovered the truth. His family had gone bankrupt. He was no longer the young master of the Shen family. And that wasn't all. On top of the bank loans, the family also had private debts to repay, and the Shen still owed their employees back wages. He was in a relationship with Mu Furong because Mu Furong insisted on competing with me. She pushed him to the point where he even took out some online loans. He thought it would be easy. Just go home, make a fuss over some excuse, and his doting mother would hand over the measly 100 grand or so without a second thought. But now, he's completely dumbfounded. Just like Mr. Shen, he set his sights on my family. He started pursuing me, going all out, the whole routine, lighting candles outside the dorm, bringing me breakfast every morning, sending flowers. If it were anyone else, there'd be a bunch of hopeless romantics cheering him on, shouting, "Get together." But alas, the moment people heard the name Shenbai at the girls' dorm entrance, they'd immediately take a detour. The reason was simple. Those compromising photos of him and Hibiscus had been plastered on the school's public bulletin board for ages. Just when things had started to die down, his mom came storming into the school, causing a huge scene in the girls' dorm, and the police had to be called. It gave the campus busybodies a juicy piece of gossip to feast on. Honestly, as someone directly involved, I'm not even sure how far this whole drama has escalated by now. Anyway, I'm the poor, pitiful cuckold in everyone's story. That morning, Shenbai showed up again. I'd finally had enough. I threw the rose he handed me onto the ground and snapped, "Shenbai, have you no shame? You like Mu Furong, so why don't you just be with her properly?" Mu Furong throws a fit every single day, accusing us of bullying and humiliating her. She threatens to kill herself in a red dress and come back as a vengeful ghost to haunt us. We're all going crazy from her antics. And you're utterly shameless. You have no shame. But I do. I still want to date other guys. What you're doing is sexual harassment. Okay, if you keep this up, I'm Calling the police, Shinbai stared at me blankly, his expression complicated. I couldn't be bothered with him and hurried off to the classroom with my 2 roommates these past couple of days. It wasn't just Shinbai bothering me, Hibiscus was on my case too, she said to me, Ying, since you don't like Shinbai, why can't you just let us be together? What we have is real love, please, I'm begging you. Don't try to take Shinbai from me, I really like him, I love him so much, I can't live without him. She even knelt at the dormitory entrance, holding up a sign, begging for my forgiveness. I explained to her several times that I really don't like Shinbai and that I'd broken up with him later. She went and made a scene with Shinbai a few more times. Upon learning the truth about his family's situation, a chill ran down Shinbai's spine. To Shinbai, I am his only shortcut, so he was determined to win me over. Using every ounce of his charm and effort at that moment, he utterly despised Mu Furong. He believed it was Hibiscus who ruined his plans. If it weren't for Hibiscus actively seducing him, how could he have lost control and gotten involved with her? These shameless words were spoken to me directly by Shinbai. Every time he explains the situation with Hibiscus to me, he insists that she was the one who seduced him. He even said that it's perfectly normal for a 20-year-old man like him to have needs. He went so far as to tell me that it was a sign of his good health. If I hadn't been reborn, I could never have imagined how my childhood friend, my once sweet and innocent playmate, could have become so shameless. With final exams approaching, we were all too busy to pay attention to anything else, throwing ourselves completely into our studies. To our surprise, right after the final exams ended, a strawberry roll, Little Iris, and I were leaving the examination hall, we heard that someone was threatening to jump from the rooftop of the mall across the street. They said she was wearing a red dress. Word was, she'd been in a relationship, got dumped, and just couldn't see a way out. Something felt off about the whole situation. I grabbed Strawberry Roll and Little Iris, and we sprinted toward the mall across the street. No way, you can't be serious. Is that foolish woman really going to kill herself? Strawberry Roll panted, running out of breath as she cursed. Please don't, I don't want to run into such awful luck, and yet, this stroke of terrible misfortune is exactly what we stumbled into across lifetimes. Hibiscus has never been able to escape the fate of suicide. She already suffered from mild depression. After being dumped by Shinbai and then scorned by everyone, she saw no way out. Shinbai would constantly provoke and humiliate her with his words, day in and day out. In the end, it drove her to leap from a building to her death, as resolutely and decisively as she had in her past life. But this time, the one who relentlessly hounded her and pushed her to the brink was none other than Shinbai, the very man who had loved her to the bone in their previous lifetime. By the time we arrived, her body had already been taken away. A utterly devastated Shinbai was led away by the police for questioning. Since Hibiscus had taken her own life, Shinbai was released very quickly. However, after his release, he fell seriously ill, reportedly from the shock. After all, it was only natural to be traumatized, seeing Hibiscus die right before his eyes while dressed in a bright red wedding gown. But after Shinbai recovered from his illness, he began to talk nonsense. He claimed to be the executive CEO of Qingye Group, boasting billions in assets and owning numerous luxury mansions. He wanted to marry me. He stumbled to my doorstep just as my mother and I were returning from a trip. She had taken me away to shield me from the shock of the Hibiscus's death. Seeing him disheveled and ragged, looking every bit the wretched vagrant, I immediately frowned in distaste. Ying, I've found you at last. Listen to me. I'm just down on my luck for now. I'll have money, I swear. You have to believe me. No, that's not right. At this point, he shook his head and said, marry me. This time, I'll love you right. I won't let you down, I promise. I was completely fooled by the cotton rose. I called security and had him removed. 10. Shinbai has lost his mind. To pay for his medical treatment, Shin's parents took on odd jobs everywhere and borrowed heavily. Life grew increasingly difficult, a steady decline into hardship. Of course, none of this had anything to do with me or my family anymore. A year later, at a Qingye Group business reception, I ran into Su Yi, the aloof campus heartthrob from my school I'd always name-dropped to placate my mom. He held a glass of red wine, smiling with refined elegance. Miss Yi, I heard from Auntie Yi that you've admired me for quite some time, he said, while opening his phone and smoothly presenting his contact QR code right in front of me. I was so embarrassed I could have dug a castle with my toes. The line of girls at school who admire him could stretch all the way to the Atlantic. Am I not allowed to speak my mind anymore? Alright, I admire you. Okay, can we add each other as friends? He said to me with a chuckle. This, what happened to the promised aloof and unattainable flower? As the banquet ended and I was walking to the entrance, Shinbai suddenly rushed out and shouted at me, Ying, it's not like that. how could you like someone else? I know you love me, you do love me." As he spoke, reeking of decay, he actually reached out to embrace me given his disheveled, vagrant appearance and the overwhelming stench. The security guards dragged him away. I walked up to him and just stared for a long moment before finally saying, "Shinbai, this time, Ying, have absolutely nothing to do with you. Qingyi Group has absolutely nothing to do with you. Life without you is truly wonderful. I can be happy every single day. And you, the hibiscus died because of you. In this life and the last, you deserve to spend your life in destitution." Consumed by regret, his jaw dropped, and he stared at me in stunned silence. I paid him no mind, turned around, and walked toward the brilliant light that was my destiny. The end. Story 2. Tang Yan's childhood sweetheart deliberately jumped into the water to sabotage our wedding. Little did she know, her life jacket wasn't properly fastened. Her staged drowning turned into a real emergency. Tang Yan begged me with desperate humility, "Yushi and I grew up together. I can't just let her drown. Xiaonan, I know you can swim. Please save her. We'll be forever grateful." Under the moral coercion of the crowd, I jumped into the sea to rescue someone, but rescue is entirely different from swimming. Sun Yushi, in her panic, clung to me desperately and nearly dragged us both under to drown. After being rescued, I developed severe lung infections from near drowning and was confined to bed. Tang Yan seized all my company shares under the pretext of my poor health requiring convalescence. After taking control of the company, he filed for divorce and immediately ran off with Sun Yushi. I was so furious it literally made me sick. When I opened my eyes again, Sun Yushi was flailing in the water while Tang Yan clung to the railing, ready to jump. I quietly took 2 steps back. Let him be the one to save his childhood sweetheart this time. Someone's drowning. Help, Brother Yen, save me. Gurgling sounds, the chaotic surroundings, stampeding footsteps, desperate cries, and shouting snapped me back to reality. I looked down in bewilderment to find myself wearing a white wedding gown. This dress was all too familiar, custom made abroad specifically for my wedding with Tang Yen. I had somehow been reborn on the very day of my wedding to Tang Yen. My head jerked up as I took in the painfully familiar scene before me. Sun Yushi flailed desperately in the seawater, the life jacket that had been on her now floating just beyond her reach. With each frantic movement, it drifted further away. Tang Yen, upon hearing Sun Yushi's cries for help, immediately abandoned me, his bride, and rushed to the cruise ship's deck. Climbing onto the railing to jump, I dashed out right behind Tang Yen and, seeing this, instinctively reached out to stop him. I knew Tang Yen not only couldn't swim but also had a fear of water. He nearly drowned in a river as a child, and it was Sun Yushi who called for help to save him. That's why he holds special feelings for her. Yet Tang Yen still chose to hold the wedding on a cruise ship. I later learned the cruise wedding was Sun Yushi's idea. The drowning incident was also premeditated by Sun Yushi. Tang Yan's mother disapproved of Sun Yushi and adamantly refused to let them be together. Tang Yan tried starving himself and even attempted suicide, but ultimately couldn't defy his mother's will. He was forced into meeting me through a matchmaking arrangement. Though he claimed to love me, Sun Yushi remained the one who truly held his heart. Sun Yushi refused to give up on Tang Yan either. She went to great lengths to sabotage our wedding, even risking her own safety in the process. She wanted to prove her importance in Tang Yan's heart, forcing me to back off and initiate the breakup myself. What a touching love story. If only they hadn't made me the fool caught in the middle, I might have actually blessed their union. But later, Tang Yan set his sights on my company and, seeing me frail and ill, shifted his tactics. Sun Yushi choked on another mouthful of seawater. The harder she struggled, the more flooded her nose and throat became. Little did she expect that her life jacket wasn't properly fastened. I lowered my head with a cold smirk and took several steps backward. In this lifetime, not only will I refuse to dive in to save anyone, I'll make sure they reap what they've sown. Tang Yan had already climbed over the railing when, just as he was about to jump, he suddenly froze, staring at the churning sea. Beads of sweat instantly formed on his temples, streaming down his cheeks in rivulets. He began gasping for air, pressing his body against the railing before turning around with a dazed expression. When Tang Yan noticed me standing right behind him, his eyes lit up. Xiaonan, pull me up first." I saw his whole body trembling, so he was still afraid after all. I'd thought true love could conquer all obstacles. "Xiaonan, I remember. You can swim, please." Before Tang Yan could start guilt-tripping me, I cut him off loudly. "Tang Yan, I know you two grew up together since childhood. I understand you couldn't bear to watch her drown, but I'm the one who's supposed to marry you. You can't even swim, yet you jump in for her. Tang Yan, have you considered how I feel? How could you do this to me?" I was practically hysterical, my screams drowning out whatever Tang Yan tried to say. Just as I paused to catch my breath, Sun Yushi's mother came limping up to us. She was the Tang family's housekeeper, a widow who lost her husband young and walked with a limp, dragging along her granddaughter's son Yushi while barely scraping by at the Tang residence. She'd always dreamed of marrying her daughter to Tang Yen, and whenever I visited the Tangs, she'd pull every trick in the book to humiliate me. Now, Mrs. Sun couldn't spare the energy for her usual snide remarks. She turned to Tang Yen with desperate pleading. Yen, I'm begging you, she's my only daughter, for heaven's sake, she saved your life when you were children, just pull her out of there, won't you? The guests crowded around, all clamoring for Tang Yen to jump in and save the drowning person, just like they'd urged me in our past life. When they heard the drowning man had once saved Tang Yen, they took the moral high ground and made callous remarks from the sidelines. I feigned panic too, putting on a convincing act of being utterly helpless. Tang Yen looked at Sun Yushi in the water. Only half of her head was visible above the surface. I noticed that someone had already called for the crew, preparing to jump in and rescue her. This simply wouldn't do. I sighed and turned to the guests, saying, stop pressuring Tang Yen. He's not a coward. Even though the person who fell into the water is his savior, he can't just throw his life away for past kindness. I watched as Sun Yushi's mother fanned the flames. Auntie, don't make things difficult for Tang Yen. After all, he's a young master from a wealthy family. To him, your precious daughter is just the maid's child. A flash of fury and humiliation crossed Mrs. Sun's eyes before her knees buckled, and she knelt before Tang Yen. Tang Yen was completely overwhelmed as Sun Yushi's struggles weakened and she began sinking beneath the surface. Tang Yen gritted his teeth and turned to climb back over the railing. Yes, climb back. He never had the courage to jump in and save her. Trembling as he clutched the railing to pull himself up, his lips quivered with muttered words. It's not that I won't save them, I can't swim, I'd drown if I jumped in. So instead of saving anyone himself, he forces others to do it. He cares about Sun Yushi's life, his own life, just not mine right now. I have just one thought. He must go down there and answer for what he did to my past self. I shouted, Tang Yen, get up here now. You're afraid of water. But I'm not. I'm going down to save her. But unlike my past life. Instead of removing my wedding dress, I took off the crown from my head and charged at Tang Yen under the cover of my flowing skirt. The sharpest point of the crown pierced right into the fleshy part of Tang Yen's hand, too. The sudden pain made his already loose grip falter. His hands jerked back as his whole body toppled backward toward the sea. My wedding dress got tangled on the railing, preventing me from climbing over. Tang Yen, don't go down. I stretched my arm desperately, but couldn't reach anything. Tang Yen flailed his legs in panic midair before crashing squarely onto Sun Yushi's head. A massive wave erupted from the sea, and my lips curled into a fierce, wave-like smile before I quickly reined it in. By then, the ship's lifeguards had already deployed a small boat under the hopeful gaze of myself and the others. They quickly pulled both people from the water. Although the cruise ship had a medical bay, the doctor had taken leave on the day of departure, which was why I didn't receive timely treatment in my previous life. Serves them right for this lifetime. I knelt disheveled beside Tang Yen, weeping my heart out. I knew you loved her, but we were about to get married. How could you abandon me for her? Tang Yen, if you didn't want to be with me, you could have just told me. I wouldn't have stopped you too. Why did you have to choose our wedding day for your suicide pact? The guests who had urged Tang Yen to rescue others earlier now fell into an awkward silence. Everyone pricked up their ears, completely engrossed in the juicy gossip. Even the lifeguard performing CPR on Tang Yen paused chest compressions for 2 full seconds. After basic first aid, both individuals were out of mortal danger but remained unconscious. Sun Yushi fared better than Tang Yen, having deliberately practiced underwater breathing techniques before orchestrating her plunge. Tang Yen had it rough. He was the one who truly accidentally fell into the water. Tang Yen was already afraid of water, and the moment he fell into the sea, with his mouth still agape, he lost consciousness. When seawater filled his nose and mouth, he was choked awake only to be choked unconscious again. The amount of water the lifeguard pumped out of him was enough for a whole bath. Watching him cough up bloody water, I contentedly blew my nose into the wedding dress with Tang Yen, the groom, in such a state. The wedding was naturally put on hold. The cruise ship was already in international waters, so we could only wait for helicopter rescue at this point. I was genuinely praying for Tang Yen. If he just died like this, it would be letting him off too easy. The pain and suffering, the betrayal and humiliation I endured in my previous life, he has to experience all of it in this lifetime. Dragging my wedding dress, with my hair disheveled, I knelt outside the infirmary for 2 hours. Everyone was moved by the depth of my feelings. Finally, the helicopter arrived and took them both to the hospital. That same afternoon, my bridesmaids and I rushed to the Emergency room. Sun Yushi was out of critical danger but still unconscious. It seemed Tang Yan had hit her pretty hard in her past life at this moment. She was already sobbing in Tang Yan's arms. It's all my fault. I felt awful about your wedding and just wanted some fresh air on the deck. Tang Yan held her tightly and whispered. Zhou Xiaonan insisted on jumping. She brought this on herself by being reckless. This time, I'm the one standing outside while Tang Yan fights for his life. Tang Yan's mother rushed toward me the moment she saw me, raising her hand to slap me. If it weren't for you manipulating my son, why would he want a cruise wedding? He's been terrified of water since childhood. This is all your fault. My son would never have ended up like this otherwise. How ridiculous. It was clearly her own son's decision, yet she's quick to shift blame when things go wrong. Tang's mother's hand froze midair before reaching me. Intercepted by 4 bridesmaids, I hired these professional hostesses specifically to avoid Yan Tang's rowdy friends harassing the bridesmaids. Didn't dare risk having my actual best friends there. That's when these 4 girls unexpectedly proved their worth. They all started calling out Yan Tang for abandoning his own wedding to dive into the ocean for that rescue. Don't give me that heroic act nonsense. Rumor has it the woman in the water was the groom's childhood sweetheart. The way they're looking at each other is downright indecent. You can practically see the sparks flying. Instead of blaming your own son for abandoning his bride and jumping overboard during the wedding, you're pointing fingers at the innocent bride. Sounds like a guilty conscience to me. I've got the ship's surveillance footage right here. Don't even think about framing an innocent person. Of course there were videographers at the wedding, but they were all behind me. They captured Tang Yan sprinting across the deck and climbing over the railing like he meant to jump. Then they focused the camera on Sun Yushi struggling in the water, completely missing my subtle movements. Tang Yan's parents turned deathly pale after watching the footage, clenching her teeth stubbornly. Tang's mother stiffened her neck and jabbed at the recording while confronting me. You were right behind Xiao Yan. Why didn't you stop him? You could have easily reached out and grabbed him. I covered my face, putting on a grief-stricken and haggard look as if utterly heartbroken. Sobbing uncontrollably without responding, 2 young women flanked me to offer comfort, while 2 others stepped forward and began berating Aunt Tang. Like mother, like son. When the son gets entangled with other women, the mother just shifts the blame. Look at your son's resolute expression. Who'd dare stop him? And if someone did, you'd probably accuse them of pushing him into the water. Seriously, are you blaming our bride for your son's change of heart? Next you'll say it's her fault for not being able to keep him interested. That little tramp who got your son into trouble is lying right next door. Why don't you go slap some sense into her? Mrs. Tang was overconfident, trying to take on 4 people at once, and nearly fainted from sheer rage. Eventually a nurse came out and sternly warned everyone to keep quiet in the hospital. 3. I stole a glance at Aunt Tang clutching her chest, secretly relishing the sight. That old hag was her son's accomplice in my past life. She'd often come to humiliate me under the pretense of visiting the sick. By then I was already bedridden, barely able to move. Hands on her hips, she stood by my bed, cursing me as a barren hen, saying I was dying from illness yet still dragging her son down. In the end, she even took out Tang Yan and Sun Yushi's photo to taunt me. She sneered triumphantly. Look how perfect Yushi is for our Xiao Yan. She got pregnant so soon after they got together. What a blessed girl. She'd forgotten it was her who'd desperately tried to keep Tang Yan and Sun Yushi apart in the first place. She looked down on Sun Yushi because her mother was a housemaid, considering the girl inferior right now. She detests Sun Yushi more than ever, yet her only son nearly lost his life for that girl. I didn't stay long at the hospital before being whisked away by 4 young women to change clothes. After witnessing the 4 ladies' combat skills, I booked them a hotel and decided to extend their employment for 3 more months. That very night, I logged onto a short video platform, edited the wedding footage, and posted it online. The clip of me kneeling outside the ER was perfectly framed. Viewers said I looked utterly shattered. I even bought myself a trending hashtag, then switched off my phone and slept like a baby. Waking past noon the next day, I did a sickly makeup look, grabbed the chicken soup delivered by a rider, and returned to the hospital with 4 girls in tow. Perfect timing. Tang Yan just woke up half an hour ago. As for Sun Yushi, word as she regained consciousness around midnight. I knocked on Tang Yan's hospital door and barged right in with the girls before anyone could respond. The VIP ward held only Tang Yan. Tang Yan lay in bed, eyes half open, staring blankly at the ceiling. He was on oxygen, his bare chest covered in ECG leads, a blood pressure cuff on his left arm, and 4 in the back of his right hand, and antithrombosis wraps on both legs. Most notably, he also had a catheter bag. The sadness I'd been trying to hold on to almost completely evaporated when I saw the bubbles in the urine bag. I quickly lowered my head, covering my face as my shoulders began to tremble. I had to hide my face. Yan Tang couldn't see my delight just yet. The girls immediately gathered around to console me, completely ignoring the prone figure of Yan Tang. Hearing the commotion, Yan Tang painfully turned his head. The moment he saw me, his eyes burned with fury. He yanked off his oxygen mask in one swift motion, struggling to sit up in agitation, but he was too weak. The slightest movement triggered violent coughing fits that flushed his face crimson. After gasping for breath, he finally rasped out an accusation. "Zhou Xiaonan, why didn't you stop me this time? You were supposed to hold me back and jump into the sea yourself. You stabbed my hand on purpose. You meant for me to fall into the water." Tang Yan's bloodshot eyes trembled as he shakily raised his injured left hand. His words sent a chill down my spine. Had Tang Yan been reborn too? I bit down hard on my tongue. As the pain shot through me, I looked up again with tears streaming down my face. "Tang Yan, what are you talking about? If you hadn't jumped in first, I would have already gone into the water to save them. I didn't stab your hand either. Think again. Didn't you injure yourself by hitting the railing? Can't remember. Probably a side effect from being submerged too long." Tang Yan stared into my eyes as if trying to see right through me. He asked, word by deliberate word, "Zhou Zinan, you're not stopping me. Did you get reborn too? You resent me for abandoning you in our past life, so now you want me dead?" The four girls stood nearby exchanging bewildered glances, all thinking Tang Yan must have inhaled too much water. Only I understood what he really meant. I met his gaze, my eyes clear and bright. Without a hint of guilt, I want him dead, and I'm perfectly justified in feeling that way. Why should I feel guilty? I stood firm, as if ready to join the party, declaring, "I don't know what you're talking about." Tang Yan started coughing again, shaking his head as if possessed. "Wait, this isn't right. You were supposed to jump in and save Yushi, then catch pneumonia so I could nurse you back to health. You'd be so moved that you'd sign over your entire company to me. Then when you're on death's doorstep, I'd dump you and marry Yushi to start a family." Yes, that's exactly what he did in our past life. Everyone praised him for standing by me, telling me to be grateful. Little did they know he was after the company my parents left me all along. I loved him, trusted him, and ended up losing everything, my fortune, my love, even my life. Meanwhile, Tang Yan had it all, fame, fortune, and the woman he loved by his side, living in perfect bliss. How dare he, how fucking dare he, oblivious to the twisted hatred in my eyes. Tang Yan rested a hand on his head and muttered to himself, "Why would I jump in to save someone? Will I end up like Zhou Xiaonan in her past life, wasting away in unbearable agony? No, I refuse. I won't let that happen. If Zhou Xiaonan's fine, how am I supposed to take over her company? How can I spend her money and elope with Yushi? I regret not being reborn sooner. I should have just pushed Zhou Xiaonan into the water from the start." The hatred nearly tore through my heart. My fists clenched violently, and just as I was about to lose control, the hospital room door swung open. Sun Yushi entered the hospital room in a wheelchair. My gaze lingered on her face. A deep gash ran from her left eyelid down to the corner of her mouth. Instantly, I thought of the crown that had stabbed Tang Yan. He fell into the water clutching that crown, which then landed on Sun Yushi's head, even managing to scratch her face. A 50,000 yuan crown, worth every penny. Noticing my gaze, Sun Yushi's face twisted in rage, looking ready to lunge at me and strangle me any second. Too bad she lacked the strength to even stand, so she just wheeled her chair over and collapsed against Tang Yan, sobbing, Brother Yan, are you okay? You scared Cece to death. I thought I'd never see you again." For the frail Tang Yan couldn't handle Sun Yushi's forceful hug. He doubled over like a dying fish, coughing violently as bubbles began rising in his urine bag again. Seeing those bubbles, my anger instantly dissolved. It was like a sudden release of pent-up tension. At least in this lifetime, I'm not the one living a fate worse than death. The furious girls were about to teach that scumbag and his mistress a lesson, but I stopped them. "Don't worry, karma will get them eventually." Sun Yushi clung to Tang Yan's arm, still desperately seeking attention. "Brother Yan, you're so good to me. If you hadn't jumped in without hesitation, I might have drowned." She provocatively turned her head to look at me again. "Sister Zhou, you won't blame me for ruining your meticulously planned wedding, will you? It's all because of the many years of affection between Yan and me." I smiled and pointed at Tang Yan's arm. Sun Yushi was pressing his arm so tightly that the blood was starting to back up, and the foretube was completely red with blood. "No, why would I blame you?" After saying my piece, I quickly pulled the girls further away. Only then did Yushi notice, tearfully apologizing while frantically massaging Tang Yan's arm. Watching Tang Yan howl in pain with the crooked needle, I cheerfully pressed the emergency call button. I obtained Tang Yan's medical report from the doctor. As expected, it's a lung infection, though more severe than what I experienced in my past life, accompanied by pulmonary hemorrhage, cerebral hypoxia, and other complications in my previous life. Despite their torment, I still held on for 5 years. I wonder how long Tang Yan can last this time. Half an hour later, I returned to the ward and laid out Tang Yan's medical condition to him in detail. The doctor said the shock caused brain damage that may affect your cognitive function and your lungs. Forget strenuous activities, you might become bedridden, completely dependent. I spat out the word worthless with deliberate venom. Tang Yan finally snapped. He clutched his head in disbelief, fingers digging into his hair before slowly dragging downward, unleashing a guttural roar of agony. I handed the report to Mrs. Tang, who'd just arrived. She flew into an absolute rage. This time she didn't come at me. Instead, she slapped Sun Yushi, who was cowering in the corner. You bitch, it's all because of you that my son ended up like this. Damn you, why didn't you drown? Sun Yushi covered her face, silently weeping, but her eyes darted toward the unconscious Tang Yan, still hoping he'd stand up for her. The 4 girls and I stood by watching the drama unfold. With them around, even if Tang's mom wanted to take her anger out on me, she'd think twice. Tang Yan had long lost any tenderness for women, completely absorbed in his own world and oblivious to Sun Yushi's pleading gaze. No, this can't be happening. It must be a dream, just a nightmare. Things were never supposed to be like this. Tang Yan suddenly lowered his hands, straining to lift his head as he gazed at me with profound emotion. Xiao Nan, we're married now. Could you sell the company to fund my treatment? Tang Yan's parents run a chain of supermarkets, but their profits have been declining in recent years due to competition from online shopping platforms. Still, they could afford his medical treatment even in this critical condition. He still had the audacity to covet my company. The hospital room fell so silent you could hear a pin drop. Even Tang's mother seemed momentarily stunned, fearing my refusal. Tang Yan hastily made me a promise. Once I recover, I swear I'll arrange a grand wedding to make you the happiest woman alive, and of course, after I'm better, I'll repay every penny from the company sale with interest. Had it not been for my past life's suffering, I might have actually been moved by his sincerity. I barely held it in, almost bursting out laughing. Then she pretended to hesitate, saying, "But how can I possibly leave to handle company matters when you're in this state? As your wife, I should be by your side, Mrs. Tang." Rolled her eyes slightly before mustering a warm smile. "Xiao Nan, menial tasks like these shouldn't require your personal attention." She shot a venomous glare at Sun Yushi, who was still in tears. Some people just have to face the consequences of their actions. I couldn't agree more with that. Tang's mother immediately assigned Sun Yushi to care for Tang Yan in the hospital, completely disregarding that Sun hadn't fully recovered herself. She said they'd already planned to fire Sun Yushi's mother, and this would be their chance to redeem themselves. Sun Yushi obviously objected, but the 4 young women with me immediately volunteered, pledging to stay and take care of Tang Yan. Seeing these 4 beautiful, tall women, Sun Yushi grew frantic. I'm the only one who should take care of Brother Yin. My mother's a professional caretaker and I've been doing this since childhood. We don't need outsiders interfering. I feigned a reluctant sigh, then agreed to the arrangement, and so began Sun Yushi's rather miserable career as a caregiver. To get real-time updates on their condition, I even hired a young guy who had some connections at the hospital and was also passionate about photography. Every day, he'd send me a few video clips. In the first few days, Sun Yushi was over the moon with joy. She couldn't wait to have Tang Yan all to herself to nurture their relationship. But Tang Yan lay there weakly, hooked up to machines everywhere. Forget intimacy, he couldn't even turn over without assistance. And Tang's mother clearly despised Sun Yushi, dead set on punishing the hussy who seduced her son. She didn't even bother hiring an extra nurse every day. Yushi-san not only had to feed Tang Yan and administer his medication while keeping vigil at his bedside, but also bathe and change clothes for the fastidious man. What Yushi found most unbearable was having to handle Tang Yan's bowel movements and urination since he was completely bedridden. Though the housekeeper's daughter, Yushi had grown up alongside Tang Yan and had never done any menial labor beyond enduring occasional snide remarks. Within mere days, she visibly lost weight, her face noticeably gaunt. She wouldn't dare complain to Tang's mother, so she could only sob her grievances to Tang Yan, unwilling to outright refuse caring for Tang Yan. Sun Yushi resorted to daily theatrics, lamenting her roughened hands one day, feigning back pain and coughing fits the next. Tang Yan was no fool. He knew exactly what Sun Yushi was angling for, but his gaze toward her grew increasingly inscrutable, until one day when Sun Yushi snapped abruptly after changing his socks. She threw the filthy socks on the floor, stomped on them furiously with her feet, then burst into loud sobs. "These are disgusting. Why should I be The one to deal with them. I never forced you to jump into the sea to save me. How dare you all blame me for this? She lashed out without thinking. I was soaking in seawater for hours, yet I didn't end up like you, uselessly bedridden after swallowing just a few mouthfuls of water. Tang Yen, already miserable and in pain, finally snapped. He grabbed a fruit knife from the table and hurled it at Sun Yushi. Another wound appeared on Sun Yushi's face. She clutched her face, screaming in terror, which drew the doctors and nurses. I don't know how they settled things in the end, but in videos from a few days later, they seem to have reconciled. Yet I noticed that in some of those videos, Tang Yan's gaze on Sun Yushi was chillingly sinister, truly unsettling. Tang's mother hired another caregiver for Tang Yan, finally sparing Sun Yushi from dealing with those unpleasant tasks. I stopped paying attention to them and focused on restructuring my own company. After my parents' sudden passing, I hadn't been very diligent in managing the company. Before marrying Tang Yan, he constantly brainwashed me into quitting public life and becoming a homemaker. In my past life, I didn't resist either. After my health deteriorated, I even handed over all management authority to Tang Yan. This time around, I won't be so foolish again. This company is the very foundation of my livelihood. I strained to recall who immediately switched sides back when I fell ill. They'll be the first targets I eliminate. I dread the thought of Tang Yan recovering slightly and discovering I never intended to sell the company, then scheming new ways to strike against me. After all, he's lived 2 lifetimes. The fortune he swindled from me in my past life gave him such a cushy existence. There's no way he'd give that up. I went full scorched earth and purged the entire company from top to bottom. I spoke with 4 young women, all from families that favored sons over daughters, forced into menial jobs before graduation. They hated hostess work but couldn't find better jobs with their education. When they all asked to work under me, I brought them into the company, 2 in PR, 2 in sales. To my surprise, they actually landed several deals for me. They're happy, I'm happy, everybody wins. Tang Yan calls me daily to check on company matters. 5 Whether due to physical discomfort or not, he became even more desperate to get his hands on my money. When I was uncertain about certain executives in the company, I'd subtly probe him for information. Tang Yan wasn't without his suspicions. He'd suddenly mention events from past lives that never occurred in this lifetime. I'd play dumb, and if I genuinely couldn't recall, I'd make up an excuse or change the subject. But even if I occasionally slipped up, Tang Yan couldn't catch me. His mind really wasn't as sharp anymore. He'd often forget what he'd just accused me of. Sometimes I even had to remind him myself. We spent a whole month in this dance of mutual suspicion. Tang Yan was being discharged, so I drove over personally to pick him up. I arrived over an hour early and stood waiting outside his hospital room. I cracked the door open slightly, but the 2 inside remained completely unaware. Tang Yan looked sallow and emaciated, with dark circles under his eyes that aged him a decade. He kept coughing, then spat on the ground, wiped the drool from his mouth with his hand, and cursed about the hospital being full of quacks. He used to be so refined and eloquent, but now he's like a completely different person. This is his true colors showing. Sun Yushi sat by the bedside next to Tang Yan, feeding him pieces of sliced apple. Brother Yan, please don't let Aunt Tang scold me again. Okay, the places where she hit me last time still hurt. Tang Yan glanced at the wounds on Sun Yushi's face. Both scars were left by him even after a month of healing. The scars remained clearly visible. Tang Yan pushed her away with visible disgust. How dare you say that? If it weren't for you, would I be this sick? Cough cough, a flicker of resentment flashed in Sun Yushi's eyes. I watched as she unsteadily helped Tang Yan up and staggered toward the bathroom. Tang Yan's angry voice rang out. Damn it, you're just a housekeeper's daughter. Can't even take care of people properly. Didn't your mother teach you anything? Sun Yushi's sobs soon filled the air. I brought both Tang Yan and Sun Yushi back to the Tang residence with Sun Yushi supporting Tang Yan. They looked every bit the devoted couple while I trailed behind them. The moment we stepped inside, Tang Yan was immediately surrounded by several people. They were Tang Yan's closest brothers, with 2 having witnessed the cruise ship incident firsthand. Brother Tang, we've been meaning to visit you at the hospital, but things got hectic and we couldn't find the time. Exactly, now that you're discharged, we figured we should throw you a proper celebration. Tang Yan forced a smile and hugged each of them in turn. Whether genuine or not, the performance was flawless. No sooner had Tang Yan taken his seat than an involuntary cough escaped him, making his close friends frown in unison. The one sitting nearest even hastily excused himself to visit the restroom, practically fleeing the scene. Tang Yan covered his mouth, his entire body trembling. Whether from the coughing fit or suppressed rage was unclear. When he finally caught his breath, he weakly gestured for Sun Yushi to serve tea to everyone. They all clearly knew about Tang Yan and Sun Yushi's relationship. They called me sister-in-law to my face, but their eyes kept signaling to Sun Yushi. I played along with their charade, smiling all the while. After all, I was the one who leaked Tang Yan's discharge time, just to get them all together under one roof. Spotting Sun Yushi in the kitchen, I deliberately pretended to be on a phone call. That's right, all his friends are here, some from business families, I hear. A Yan insists I host them properly. The in-laws will be bringing their friends over soon too. Yes, it's basically my formal introduction to everyone. When I turned back, Sunny had already vanished from sight. I returned to the living room with a smile, finding Sunny whispering intimately into Tang Yan's ear. Spotting me, Tang Yan pushed Sunny away and began gasping for air. His post-recovery symptoms were severe, either coughing fits or labored breathing. Xiaonan, I left my ID at the hospital and still need it. Could you do me a favor and fetch it for me? His eyes were shifty, yet he insisted I go retrieve it. I secretly recorded our conversation, then grabbed my bag with a smile and left. Just as I reached the doorway, a food delivery guy showed up. I took a deliberate look. Seafood, grilled meat, fried skewers, all sorts of foods bad for lung conditions, plus several crates of alcohol, beer, baijiu, and imported liquor, the whole shebang. Smiling, I returned to my villa and called the hospital, asking the nurse to help locate my missing ID documents. I quickly laid down for a nap. Looked like things would get lively tonight. 3 hours later, my phone started buzzing like crazy. The moment I answered, a chaotic storm of shouts, wails, and the sound of things being smashed assaulted my ears through the receiver. Tang's mother's hoarse curses came screaming through the phone line. Zhou Xiaonan, where the hell are you? Get to the hospital now. Tang Yan's dying. I steadied my voice, trembling with what sounded like panic and tears. What happened? He was perfectly fine when I left. And Tang just snapped no more talk and hung up after telling me to get there immediately. It was my second time outside the ER. Sun Yushi knelt there with clasped hands, caught between prayer and desperate pleading. Aunt Tang stood arms akimbo, fury written across her face. I preempted her before she could speak. What the hell happened? I was barely gone when he got into trouble. What are you all playing at? Can't this household function for 5 minutes without me? Aunt Tang shrank under my fury, unable to meet my gaze. To save face, she immediately redirected her anger and kicked the kneeling Sun Yushi. Who told you to order all that food and alcohol? You knew damn well Xiao Yan hasn't recovered yet. Were you trying to kill him? Sun Yushi was kicked to the ground, revealing the bright red slap mark on her face as she retorted, but you and Uncle Tang were right there. Neither of you told Brother Yen to slow down on the drinks. Aunt Tang flew into another rage, grabbing Sun Yushi by the hair and slamming her head against the wall. I quickly backed away, terrified of getting bloodstains on my clothes. Thanks to the doctor's efforts, Tang Yan was pulled through once again. This time, Mrs. Tang didn't want Sun Yushi anywhere near her son. She insisted I stay to care for him instead. I declined, citing urgent matters with the company's assets. I stayed away from the hospital until Tang Yan called me 2 weeks later. His voice was frail, like that of a man on death's door. Xiaonan, why haven't you come to see me? I gently explained that I was currently raising funds for an upcoming IPO. An IPO? His voice suddenly rose, triggering a coughing fit that racked his lungs. Cough, why go public? You promised to sell the company for my treatment. You know what? The doctor said a lung transplant is my only option now, but the procedure's risky, still experimental, and costs a fortune. Xiaonan, I'm begging you, please save me. Think of how much I've loved you. I turned away, forcing myself to recall every heartbreaking memory just to stop from laughing out loud. He actually said he loves me, with his past life memories intact. He knows damn well he never loved me, yet he still dares to lie to my face. I told him listed companies fetch better prices, half convinced. He urgently asked me to visit him at the hospital to discuss company matters in person. Oh, I'll go alright. The more he suffers, the sweeter my revenge. I casually grabbed a few forged documents I'd prepared earlier and entered the hospital room. Tang Yan now looked like a dried-up corpse, gaunt, sallow, and lifeless. There was no sign of Sun Yushi by his side. Tang Yan was the mastermind behind my brutal death in my past life. With Sun Yushi as his accomplice, Tang Yan will pay with his life, and I won't let Sun Yushi escape justice either. I first inquired about Tang Yan's condition, and he fixed his slightly clouded eyes intently on me. 6. I gave his bony hand a reassuring pat, then pulled out the documents and flipped through them page by page for him. A spark of vitality returned to Tang Yan's eyes. Are they really offering $1 billion for the acquisition? Absolutely. The company's prospects are fantastic, though the contract won't be signed until after the IPO. I hesitated, but you're in urgent need of money. I'm worried. Tang Yan gritted his teeth. No problem. Just go ahead with it. My parents still have some savings, and if that's Not enough, I'll have them sell the supermarket first. It's been losing money for years anyway. That was exactly what I'd been waiting to hear. He played the devoted male lead to perfection, showering me with grand declarations of undying love. I played along, pretending he was my one and only, even spouting ridiculous nonsense about having 8 children together with a straight face. It's all mutual deception anyway. Who's really innocent here? Then I changed the subject and asked about Sun Yushi. Where's Yushi? You went through all this for her sake, even if your mother disapproves of her. She should at least show some gratitude. Tang Yan remained silent. I knew exactly why. Sun Yushi and Tang Yan had a huge fight a week ago. Sun Yushi was preparing to sue Tang Yan for intentional harm, all because the Tang family planned to fire her mother. In the video, Sun Yushi was causing a scene in the hospital room. I saved you before, and now you've saved me. We're even. But how dare you fire my mother? She's getting old, has trouble walking, and won't easily find another job. Are you trying to drive us mother and daughter to our deaths? I adjusted Tang Yan's blanket and sighed. You used to treat her so well, even bought her luxury gifts. Who'd have thought she'd disappear without a trace when you fell ill and needed financial help? Anyone with common sense knows you shouldn't drink. Yet she bought so much alcohol. Was she deliberately trying to humiliate you in front of your friends? Or worse, what if you died? My words made Tang Yan clench his fists. Seeing my goal achieved, I excused myself by claiming work obligations and left. Merely playing small tricks on Tang Yan wasn't nearly enough. I wrote an anonymous complaint letter reporting expired food sales and fire safety violations at Tang Yan's family supermarket. The food safety and fire departments swiftly penalized the supermarket, ordering immediate suspension for rectification just as they were about to reopen after compliance. I reported the supermarket for tax evasion. I'd only meant to hassle the Tang family, but unexpectedly uncovered their kickback schemes and fraudulent invoicing. With multiple convictions, Mr. Tang, as legal representative, received a 5-year prison sentence, and the supermarket's license was revoked. After a series of fines, Tang Yan was moved from the VIP ward to a standard hospital room. He started calling me constantly, begging me to cover his medical bills. I ran out of excuses, so the next time he called, I just broke down sobbing. I told him I'd fallen victim to an investment scam and begged Tang Yan to temporarily lend me the deed to his villa as loan collateral. Just let me get through this rough patch, and I promise I'll pay you back double. Okay, Tang Yan, Tang Yan. Tang Yan ruthlessly hung up on me. I tossed my phone aside and went back to enjoying the massages and pampering from the ladies. The young man who loves photography sent me another video. Tang Yan went to see Sun Yushi and asked her for money. If you don't pay up, I want everything I ever gave you returned, including that apartment I bought you. I can't stand sharing a hospital ward with 3 other patients. Between the snoring and teeth grinding, I need a private room to recover. There was no way Sun Yushi would surrender her gains. She began pushing Tang Yan's wheelchair toward the door. I haven't even sued you for slashing my face with that knife. How dare you demand money from me? My reconstructive surgery alone will cost over 100,000 yuan. Besides, gifts become the receiver's property. You've got no right to take them back. Despite being a man, Tang Yan was no match for Sun Yushi due to his severe illness. In just 2 moves, Sun Yushi shoved him out the door and even slapped him. Get out, get the hell out, or I'm calling the cops. Behold, this is their so-called unbreakable love. Soon after, I received a call from Mother Tang, my petty mother-in-law who used to be so domineering. Now completely deflated, she demanded I sue Sun Yushi as the legal wife to reclaim the house. That's marital property between you and Xiao Yan. Just filed a lawsuit and that homewrecker won't stand a chance. Tang Yan was by her side when he took over the call, his voice sounding utterly defeated. I must have been blind. Who knew she was this kind of person? Xiaonan, help me get that house back. From now on I'll live only for you. That duplex was actually bought by Tang Yan to placate Sun Yushi right after we got married. Cost over 5 million. What's mine stays mine. I won't let anyone take advantage. The day Sun Yushi got served with court papers, she actually called just to curse me out. I figured there must be a reason for her poor academic performance, so I quickly gave her a crash course on legal basics and kindly suggested she consult a lawyer ASAP. When I left work, I saw Sun Yushi waiting at the company entrance with her mother in tow. Her mother dropped to her knees the moment she spotted me, wailing so loudly it drew a crowd of onlookers. Please, Miss Zhou, have mercy on us. My daughter never interfered in your marriage with Mr. Tang. Don't drive us to our deaths, I beg you. Many people raised their phones to record. Sun Yushi was determined to weaponize public opinion against me. She and her mother kept kowtowing to me hysterically until the police intervened. all while recounting their tragic backstory and my alleged bullying. The public outrage unfolded exactly as she'd planned. 7. But when the furious netizens stormed into my Weibo, they uncovered all those videos I'd posted before on our wedding day. My groom jumped into the sea to save her while I knelt outside the infirmary praying. There were also clips of Tang Yan lying in the hospital bed with Sun Yushi kissing his cheek and feeding him fruit. There's even footage from Tang Yan's discharge day. He sent me to fetch his documents from the hospital while he partied with his buddies. Arm around Sun Yushi. Finally, here's an audio recording. My dear mother-in-law and my devoted husband urged me to sue Sun Yushi as the legal wife to reclaim that apartment. Public opinion completely sided with me, condemning Sun Yushi as the pot calling the kettle black. How revolting. How dare she make a scene at that poor girl's workplace. If it were me, I wouldn't show my face in public without wrapping myself in plastic wrap first. So the groom was cheating with her from the start. Was that falling into water incident even real? Is the lady getting divorced or not? If she ignores me, I'll scoop her up with a front loader. I expected the mistress to be stunning, but with that plastic surgery disaster of a face, what was he even thinking? Why is nobody calling out this guy? He got what he wanted from the woman, and now he's demanding his gifts back. The court of public opinion turned against Sun Yushi. Someone tracked down her address and dumped dead rats and pigeons at her doorstep. Her front door was vandalized with red paint spelling "die" in bold letters. She and her mother couldn't step outside without facing scornful whispers. Some even threatened to run them over with their cars. Sun Yushi hastily went live to clear her name, attempting to garner sympathy by showing childhood photos with Tang Yan and recounting their ambiguous youthful romance. This backfired spectacularly. Not only did she fail to save herself, but she dragged Tang Yan down with her. So this guy's the real villain, wants to have his cake and eat it too. What trash. Tang Yan couldn't stay at the hospital any longer. Internet users kept barging in to take photos and interview him about his current state. Even when the ward was locked down, some bold individuals still scaled the walls to get in. His fellow patients couldn't take it anymore and started blaming Tang Yan for the chaos. Tang Yan was essentially forced to leave and had no choice but to return home. After all that turmoil, his health deteriorated further. He called urging me to drop the lawsuit, saying, "I never expected Sun Yushi to make such a scene. She used to be so gentle and sweet. This isn't like her at all. Zhou Xiaonan, what on earth did you do to push Yushi to this point?" His mind seemed to be in complete disarray. One moment he's talking about past lives, the next he's lamenting his current miserable existence. I didn't hang up, just set the phone aside and went about my business. An hour later when I picked up the phone again, Tang Yan was sobbing to himself on the other end. This wasn't supposed to happen. Where did it all go wrong? Cough cough. How could I possibly drop the lawsuit? The court proceeded as scheduled, ruling that Sun Yushi must return the property and all items Tang Yan purchased for her after our marriage registration. Sun Yushi caused a scene in court and even assaulted a bailiff, resulting in 15 days of detention. I immediately had all of Sun Yushi's and her mother's belongings thrown out of the house, then listed the property for sale that same day. By the time Sun Yushi got out 15 days later, the house had already changed hands. She rushed to the Tang residence again, planning to milk their past relationship with Tang Yan for sympathy. But the moment she finished her emotional plea, Tang Yan's eyes rolled back and he collapsed unconscious. After hospital examinations, doctors advised Mrs. Tang to transfer him to a higher-level medical facility. I secretly went to see the doctor, but to my surprise, she recognized me. "Oh, your husband is that idiot who jumped into the sea to save his mistress." "Ahem, I mean, my condolences," she said. Tang Yan had at most 3 months left to live. Of course I didn't hide the truth. I told Tang's mother everything exactly as it was. Amid Aunt Tang's heart-wrenching sobs, I promised to raise the money immediately and do everything possible to save Tang Yan. I sighed. Who knows what Sun Yushi said to Ian? It must have been awful enough to make him faint. Aunt Tang wiped her tears, her face darkening with silent fury as she said nothing more. The next morning, I received a call from the police. I rushed to the police station only to learn that last night, Aunt Tang had hunted down Sun Yushi with a knife, hacking off both her feet. Even Sun's mother wasn't spared. She lost an arm in the attack. When I visited my mother-in-law, she was completely unhinged, muttering incessantly, "You shameless whore, sleeping with my husband then pushing your daughter to seduce my son. You're a filthy old slut, and your daughter's no better than a cheap tramp." 8. After psychiatric evaluation confirmed her insanity, I paid for her institutionalization. Then through my lawyer, I informed my imprisoned father-in-law, "We're family, how could you keep this from us?" The prison reported that my father-in-law got into a violent fight with his cellmate after some provocation. His sentence might be extended due to the severity of the incident. After handling other matters, I finally made it to Tang Yan's hospital room. Tang Yan's eyes had grown completely cloudy. He stared at me for a long moment before seeming to recognize who I was. He smiled, but tears welled up in his eyes. Shannan, please forgive me. I was completely blinded. Sun Yushi actually told me I was dying and convinced me to leave all my inheritance to her. I'm such a scoundrel. How could I abandon you for her? You trusted me completely, always had my best interests at heart. How could I? Cough. I smiled and whispered in his ear. Tang Yan, do you believe in reincarnation? Care to guess why you've had such a miserable life? This time around, he froze momentarily before his eyes widened in disbelief, staring at me. You told me you weren't reborn. You lied to me. I laughed heartily as I recounted the fates of his parents and Sun Yushi to him one by one. If it weren't for your mother's breakdown, I'd never have known Sun Yushi's mother was your father's mistress. To let his mistress live under the same roof for 20 years. What remarkable tolerance. I'm truly not worthy of such magnanimity. I do wonder though. Is Sun Yushi actually your blood relative? Tang Yan weakly raised his hand to grab me, but I dodged his grasp. Why? I've already admitted my mistakes. Why won't you forgive me? Why did you let me end up like this? Don't you love me? I promise I'll only love you from now on. We can live happily together. Just pay for my treatment and, cough. I shrugged. Too late, Tang Yan, way too late. The doctors have issued your critical condition notice. You've got days left at most. Make them count. I tried getting Sun Yushi to visit you one last time, but she, well, let's just say her refusal wasn't polite. No amount of persuasion worked. So much for your childhood sweetheart romance. Fragile as glass, feeling even more regret now. Good, that means it's working. Tang Yan strained violently to rise, only to collapse back onto the bed with a thud. The monitor emitted a shrill, ear-splitting alarm. I slipped out of the ward just as the medical staff came rushing in after hours of resuscitation efforts. The doctor told me to accept my loss. Accept what loss? With a beaming smile, I flushed Tang Yan's ashes down the drain. The next day, I boarded a yacht with the 4 lovely ladies who'd once been my bridesmaids under a blazing sun and endless blue sky. The boundless ocean stretched before them. A brand new life had begun. Story 2. I've been secretly married to the Oscar-winning actor for 5 years. Yet he's always surrounded by scandals and refuses to acknowledge me publicly. During the variety show, everyone kept probing whether I'd ever been in a relationship. Even he joined in with a smile. Professor Chiao, I know plenty of decent guys. Want me to set you up with someone? On this day in my past life, I was so furious that I took out our wedding ring. The rising star by Chuchu ran out in tears. Shinyensi didn't say anything outwardly, but grew increasingly distant afterward. When I was rushed to the OR with severe hemorrhaging during pregnancy, he didn't even check on me. He was busy celebrating by Chuchu's birthday at a Michelin-starred restaurant. When those thugs by Chuchu hired violated me and I begged him for help, he just watched coldly. That's when I realized, to him, I was just some shameful secret to be kept in the shadows. In this new life, I smiled and said, yes, we're dating. He's not in the industry. We're getting married at month's end. Gasps erupted around us. No one expected me to announce my relationship live on the show. Shin Yansi's face darkened as the cup in his hand crumpled under his grip. He was about to speak when Bai Chuchu, radiant beside him, batted her lashes and cut in. Wow, Professor Chiao's been keeping secrets. If not for losing this round of truth or dare, were you planning to hide this forever? The live variety show erupted as Bai Chuchu's remark sent shockwaves through the streaming audience. How pathetic are Chiao Wanyan's fans. Your idol just dumped you all for romance. Hee. Our Chuchu is way better, career-driven and ambitious. Men need not apply. Who said we're miserable? Xiaoyan won us over with her acting chops and a grand slam of awards. What's wrong with dating? Unlike a certain Chu who's still a nobody. Besides, our Yan always said she'd settle down when the time's right. I smiled faintly. No matter how well you hide it, I'm still the lawful wife. In my past life, I always believed Bai Chuchu was unaware of Shinyansi's relationship with me, thinking she was also being deceived. But it wasn't until my dying moments when Bai Chuchu came to flaunt Shinyansi's devotion that I realized she'd known all along. Bai Chuchu's expression faltered, though the other show guests remained oblivious, instead turning to me with curious questions. Sis Chiao, who is it? Can we see a photo? An outsider who's worthy of our Sis Chiao. I'm dying of curiosity. I smiled. He prefers to stay out of the spotlight. I'll introduce you properly when the time comes. The moment I finished speaking, I heard a derisive snort. Bai Chuchu arched her eyebrows, shooting me a challenging look. Professor Chiao, surely you're not making this person up. At your age, it'd be quite embarrassing if you still didn't have someone special. Don't you agree? Oscar winner Shen. Bai Chuchu batted her eyelashes at Shin Yansi and playfully stuck out her tongue. I clenched my fists. only to hear Shin Yancy chime in with a perfectly timed MHM. By Choo Choo beamed even brighter. I mocked myself inwardly just moments ago. I was still hoping for something. The guest smoothed things over. Don't be mad. Professor Chiao, Choo Choo's just teasing you as usual. This is Professor Chiao's personal matter. We really shouldn't pry. I was just about to speak when a man's voice came from the doorway. Excuse me, is Yen Yen here? I've come to pick her up after work. Heads turned at the sound, revealing a young man standing casually by the doorway with one hand in his pocket. His jet black hair, slightly wavy, swept across his temples. Sharp brow ridges framed a strikingly handsome face with porcelain. Pale skin. When our eyes met, I froze momentarily. He flashed me a warm smile. Yen Yen, off work now. The live stream chat went wild. Holy shit, that guy is so hot. Is he Chiao Wanyan's non-celebrity boyfriend? Damn, I thought Chiao Wanyan was lying. Didn't expect her boyfriend to actually pick her up after work. I stood up from my chair and said to everyone around me, I'll head out first. The moment I stood up, I could feel someone's gaze burning into my back, but I didn't turn around. Just as I was about to step out the door, Shin Yancy's icy voice stopped me. Chiao Wanyan. I paused mid-step and turned to face him. Did you need something, Professor Shen? His expression darkened, displeasure gathering in his eyes. Bai Choo Choo gave me a coy smile. It's my birthday party today. Actor Shen is celebrating with me. Care to join us, Professor Chiao? I glanced at Shin Yancy, who remained silent. I'll pass. I averted my gaze and walked out. Happy birthday, I've got other commitments. The gaze fixed on me only faded after I settled into the backseat of the car. Turning to the man beside me, I expressed my gratitude. Thank you, Junior Fu. Fu Qingyuan replied. No need for formalities, Senior. I was just watching a live stream and happened to pass by. I offered a faint smile without pressing further, and he likewise refrained from questioning, simply saying, Where are you headed? I'll give you a ride. I gave him my home address. We arrived in no time just before I got out. Fu Qingyuan waved his phone at me. Senior, let's exchange contacts. I hesitated for a moment, and she chuckled softly. Who knows, I might need your help someday too. Nodding at this, I took out my phone. Sure. After exchanging contact information, Fu Qingyuan drove away. I turned and walked into the house. This house was bought by Shin Yancy and me before our marriage, though not spacious. It holds countless memories of our time together during our free time between work commitments. We'd often curl up in this house gaming and binge-watching shows. I didn't move to a new place after getting married, but these days, Shin Yancy rarely comes home. The moment I stepped inside, my agent called. Xiao Yan, check trending now. Shin Yancy X by Choo Choo, relationship official. For what a perfect match. I thought Rebirth would bring me peace of mind, yet those few lines on the screen still stung my eyes. Shin Yancy V. Everyone, meet my girlfriend, the one and only, at by Choo Choo. By Choo Choo, the future is long, and I'll walk every step of it with Mr. Shen. I dated Shin Yancy for 5 years, married him for 5 more, and waited a decade for this official announcement. Now he's casually given it to someone else. The agent's voice continued. There are nasty rumors online saying Bai Choo Choo is someone's mistress. Shin Yancy is just defending her. How outrageous. But isn't Bai Choo Choo exactly that? You've been married to actor Shen for years, yet, sis you. I interrupted her softly, asking, when will the visa be ready? Sister, you fell silent. Have you really decided to quit the industry and go abroad? 10 years ago, I gave up my dreams because of Shin Yancy. I nodded. Now, I won't let him hold me back from living my life. Shin Yancy and I grew up together since childhood. 5 As an orphaned and introverted child living under others' roofs, I was often bullied by neighborhood kids. Shin Yancy would always stand in front of me, shielding me and standing up for me, until that year when he turned 15, when his parents went bankrupt, jumped to their deaths, leaving him utterly alone under crushing debt. Shattered by the tragedy, he repeatedly contemplated suicide. It was I who held him through those nights, whispering comfort. We became each other's light in the darkness, clinging together for survival and solace. At 18, I received an offer from University abroad, the dream school I'd always longed for. Shin Yancy didn't speak that day, just held my hand with red-rimmed eyes. As we stood there all night after that night, I turned down the acceptance letter and took a talent scouts offer instead, stepping into the entertainment industry. I'll repay Shin Yancy's debts for him. He's still young with a long road ahead. Debts shouldn't weigh him down, but showbiz isn't easy. I hustled day and night, auditions, gigs, non-stop work, drank myself to the point of vomiting blood at business dinners. Finally, in my 5th year, a breakout drama role let me clear the Shin family's debts. Someone close to me asked, is it worth it? Back then, watching Shin Yancy cook for me every day and stay by my side, I felt everything was worthwhile, but now a notification chime snapped me out of my thoughts. I looked down and saw Shinyensi's name flashing on my phone screen. After a moment's hesitation, I answered the call. His voice came through, icy and detached. Quite the little actress, aren't you, hiring some guy to put on a show just to piss me off? But you miscalculated. I know exactly how much you love me. You didn't get under my skin at all. I held the phone in silence. A familiar woman's voice came through the receiver. Ayen, come cut the cake for me. Shinyensi responded, be right there. Then he turned to me and said, you know, Choo Choo and I have a new drama coming out. Once it finishes airing, I'll break up with her. Don't overthink it. Wait for me at home tonight. I'll bring your favorite dishes back with me. My memories seemed to drift away. 6. Shinyensi was spotted by a director while visiting me on set. And that's how he got his start in showbiz. I turned it down immediately because Shinyensi's dream was to pursue scientific research. Taking that acting role would have closed that door forever, but I never expected Shinyensi would go see the director behind my back. Later, he held me in his arms. His eyes rimmed red as he looked at me. Yen, I can't bear to see you struggle with me. I want to make enough money to give you the life you deserve. From that moment on, Shinyensi gave up his dreams for me and threw himself wholeheartedly into the entertainment industry. Our connection gradually faded as we got caught up in our busy lives. When the first scandal broke, he immediately flew 5 hours overnight to be by my side, holding me and apologizing, insisting it was all a misunderstanding. He promised to handle everything and told me not to worry when I suggested going public about our marriage. He said it wasn't the right time, it might hurt his career and disappoint his fans, but he swore to me that I would always be his only wife, the only woman by his side. In the end, I chose to stay silent for his sake until one day Bai Choo Choo entered the picture. She was sexually harassed at the banquet and fell into the water while fleeing, only to be rescued by Shinyensi. She resembled an innocent white flower, pure and naive, drenched and trembling. She lay in Shinyensi's arms that very night. The two trended wildly on social media as gossip accounts sensationalized the incident. Shinyensi didn't utter a single word that time. By the time I collected myself, Shinyensi had already hung up. 7. Without dwelling further, I contacted a lawyer to draft divorce papers. I must settle all matters with Shinyensi before leaving the country. To my surprise, Shinyensi actually brought Bai Choo Choo home with him that evening. Bai Choo Choo peeked out from behind Shinyensi, her cheeks flushed, then ran toward me with a giggling greeting. Tata, teacher Chiao, hee, we packed you some leftovers from my birthday banquet. Dig in while it's hot. Shinyensi remained standing with resigned amusement. Slow down, he cautioned. You're tipsy. Watch your step. He paused after speaking and looked at me. Choo Choo had too much to drink tonight. It's not safe for a girl to go home alone. Let her stay over. Oh right, you make great hangover soup, don't you? Make a bowl for Choo Choo. I stood frozen in place, my ears ringing. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. Shinyensi cheating was bad enough, but now he's openly bringing her home and he expects me to make her hangover soup. She's a grown woman. Where's her assistant? Bai Choo Choo never goes out without 3 or 4 assistants in tow. There's no way she'd be alone. At the very least, she could have stayed at a hotel. Shinyensi frowned. Yen, when did you become so petty? My voice trembled uncontrollably. This is my house. Get out. Seeing the redness at the corners of my eyes, Shinyensi softened his tone. All right, Yen. I'll make arrangements to have her sent away immediately. Shinyensi pulled out his phone, ready to make the call, but the next instant, a piercing scream shattered the air. Bai Choo Choo tumbled head over heels down the stairs. Shinyensi's face paled dramatically. He dropped his phone and rushed toward Bai Choo Choo. He was utterly panicked, a far cry from his usual composed demeanor. Choo Choo. Bai Choo Choo lay in Shinyensi's arms, her eyes tightly shut. Shinyensi's face darkened, his stormy gaze fixed intensely on me. My heart skipped a beat as I blurted out instinctively, it wasn't me. The next instant, Shinyensi's slap landed hard across my face. Chiao Wanyan, are you suggesting Choo Choo threw herself down to frame you? She's a celebrity, you know how much her appearance means to her. The blow left me dazed. It snuffed out the last flickering light in my heart. Shinyensi was carrying Bai Choo Choo and about to rush out when I called out to stop him. Wait, I handed him the divorce papers. Sign this first, or you're not going anywhere. Shinyensi shot me a furious glare. Whenever we had arguments before, I'd always pester him to buy me things and make him sign the bills to appease me. Now, he didn't even glance at what it was before signing his name. Then he strode out with Bai Choo Choo in his arms, out of Shinyensi's sight. Bai Choo Choo gave me a knowing smirk. News of Bai Choo Choo's hospitalization trended on social media. 8. In the photo, she lay weakly in the hospital bed with bandaged forehead while Shinyensi tended to her with devoted care. The internet was flooded with posts praising the couple's strong bond. Sister Yu has been my manager since debut. While others don't know about my history with Shinyensi, she's fully aware. She came up to me and started cursing Shinyensi to my face. Sis, is the visa ready? Sister, you nodded. It'll be ready in 3 days. These 3 days would give me time to sort out other matters. To my surprise, another post trended on the 3rd day. Breaking. Actress Xiao Wanyan caught in love triangle with Shinyensi and Bai Chuchu. Shocking. Xiao Wanyan's attempted murder of Bai Chuchu exposed. Clicking into the trending topic, I saw countless influencer accounts frantically reposting 2 photos. One photo shows me heading home last night. Another captures Shinyensi and Bai Chuchu walking hand in hand to the same place shortly after me. The comment section went wild. Holy shit, what's going on? Why did all 3 enter the same house? Damn. That bitch Xiao Wanyan. My sister works in the industry and found out. Apparently Xiao Wanyan sneaked into the best actor's place last night. She's the one who hurt Chu. Why would Xiao Wanyan go to the best actor's house? What kind of messed up story is this? I can't even make sense of it. Stop spreading lies. Why would our Yen ever break into someone's house? The online arguments kept raging on. Just then, a trending comment shot to the top spot. Xiao Wanyan never had an outside the industry boyfriend. She made it all up. She's been obsessed with the film emperor for years. When he went public with Chu, Xiao got jealous. Sneaked into his house beforehand, and pushed Chu down the stairs. I've got proof. Check my screenshots. Xiao used to be the film emperor's top fan when Shinyensi first entered the entertainment industry with barely any fans. I visited his sets and even created burner accounts to boost his metrics and manage his fanbase. I kept all this completely under wraps. Nobody knew except Shinyensi and me. But now, the evidence posted by this user hit me right between the eyes. With trembling hands, I called Shinyensi. He only picked up on the 5th ring. Shinyensi, it was you. There's no one else I can think of who would post those pictures besides Shinyensi. The other end of the line fell silent. After what felt like an eternity, I finally heard Shinyensi speak. Yen, you brought this upon yourself. Your remarks on the variety show led netizens to mistakenly believe Chu was someone's mistress, tarnishing her reputation and subjecting her to cyberbullying. Our public relationship announcement wasn't just for our new drama, it was primarily to salvage her reputation and atone for your mistake. I thought you'd show remorse, but instead you pushed her down the stairs. Shinyensi's words had me laughing till tears nearly streamed down my face. All this, for my sake. If she's not a homewrecker, then what is she? Some naive virgin saint? Xiao Wanyan, you're being utterly unreasonable. Jiang Yanxi's furious shout cut me off mid-sentence. Since things have come to this, I don't want your conflict to escalate further. Apologize to Chu, and I'll have her publicly declare her forgiveness. Let's consider this matter settled. Just like that, it's over. Easier said than done. As if Shinyensi had never set foot in the entertainment industry, I tilted my head back to hold back tears, about to say something to Shinyensi when another voice came through the phone. Mr. Shin. Chu's awake and asking for you. I'm coming right now. Shinyensi responded urgently. When I checked my phone again, the call had already ended. Shinyensi hurried toward Bai Chu's hospital room 9. Midway there, he seemed to remember something and stopped, turning to instruct his assistant. Did you get that necklace I asked you to buy earlier? The one Yen mentioned she had her eye on. The assistant nodded. Have it delivered to Yen. Shinyensi knew Xiao Wanyan carried quiet pride in her heart. If she had to bow to Bai Chu, she'd definitely feel wronged, but there's no helping it. When you make mistakes, you face the consequences. Luckily, Yen is easy to appease. Back when she got upset, buying her a little something would always cheer her up. By the way, isn't there a matching bracelet too? Give it to Chu. When Shinyensi sent someone to deliver the necklace, Sister Yu was showing me Bai Chu's live interview 10 in the video. She lay in a hospital bed while Shinyensi gently tucked the blanket around her. The reporter asked, Teacher Chu, have you seen the online discussions these days? Did Xiao Wanyan really fail to come between you two, then push you down the stairs? Bai Chu forced a smile. Don't blame Yen. After all, ACI is outstanding and has many admirers. The reporters were outraged. So it's all true. How is Xiao Wanyan's behavior any different from a stalker fan? Disgusting. How does someone like her deserve to be an award-winning actress? Bai Chu gave a tired smile without responding. Clearly exhausted, the media noticed her bracelet and gasped. That bracelet looks familiar. Isn't it the one from the European Royal Collection auctioned recently? I heard it came as a set with a necklace. Bai Chu's glance at Shinyensi spoke volumes to the media. Shin the movie Emperor and Chu are rock solid. No homewrecker stands a chance. Sister Yu finally snapped, cursing at her phone screen at the top of her lungs. The assistant Shinyensi had arranged was promptly shown the door by Sister Yu. The company backing me isn't some pushover. Whenever I'm not filming, I always go home, so the security guards have plenty of photos of me coming and going. The company coordinated multiple influencer accounts to post simultaneously. Isn't this Xiao Wanyan's place? We see her coming back all the time, unlike a certain award-winning actor who's barely around. How can 2 photos of 3 people entering the same house prove Xiao Wanyan pushed by Chu Chu? There might be details we're unaware of, don't jump to conclusions. Meanwhile, the company's official clarification statement was also released. The online sentiment shifted slightly, but what truly surprised me was Shenyansi personally posting a statement. Apparently, Ms. Xiao Wanyan has been sneaking into my home to case the place when I'm away. The accompanying image shows a property ownership certificate. At that moment, I felt blood rushing to my head in fury. 11. My mind buzzed violently as my vision blurred. Before clearing Shenyansi's debts, we squeezed together in a cramped rental apartment. After paying off the debts, worried he might feel left out, I put his name on the property deed when buying this house. Back then he smiled and told me, "Yen Yen, don't overthink it, I believe in what we have." But now, our love has turned into a knife stabbing me in the back. Hit me with your best shot, sister, you lost it too. She never expected Shenyansi would go this far. Marriage certificate, marriage, flaunting the marriage certificate. Yen Yen, where's your marriage license? Shenyansi took it away. He's the one who keeps all these things. On our wedding day, Shenyansi was overjoyed. He kissed our marriage certificates several times. He said he'd frame both marriage certificates to preserve them properly. Sister, you fell silent. After a long pause, she asked, Yen Yen, have you really been together for 10 years? A bitter smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. My phone buzzed with a new message at that moment. Need any help? It was from Fu Qinyuan. Thanks, but I'm good. After turning off my phone, I handed Sister Yu a USB drive. Sis Yu, let's post this. There are security cameras in that house. Shenyansi doesn't know about it. 12. I'm not someone who enjoys being on camera, but coming home alone to an empty house with obsessive fans lurking outside scared me so much that I installed security cameras. The cameras captured everything that happened that night, from Shenyansi bringing Bai Chu Chu inside and ordering me to make hangover soup, to Bai Chu Chu tumbling down the stairs without me touching her, followed immediately by Shenyansi slapping me. The internet exploded when this footage surfaced. Holy shit, what's going on? In the video, Xiao Wanyan claimed the house was hers, and Shenyansi didn't even refute it. But isn't the property deed under Shenyansi's name? See that? Our Yen Yen didn't even touch Bai Chu Chu. How shameless can that Bai Chu Chu be? From the video, she just got a tiny scratch on her forehead, yet she's been milking hospital resources for days. The audacity to waste public resources like this. Mind your own damn business. Our Chu Chu paid for this place. She can stay as long as she wants. Is Shenyansi that brainless? He just swallows Bai Chu Chu's lies whole. Pathetic excuse for a man. If he's not using his brain, he might as well feed it to the dogs. Dog, EW. No thanks. Our Chu Chu is the best actor's girlfriend. Who else should he side with? Frankly, seeing him protect his woman was downright hot. What's really going on between these three? What the hell happened, sister? You scrolled through online comments, reading them aloud to me while cursing Bai Chu Chu. In her fury, she even started cursing Shenyansi. After the outburst, she suddenly paused and looked at me. I smiled faintly. It's fine, there's nothing between us anymore. Bai Chu Chu responded surprisingly fast, immediately posted a clarification statement. Apologies for taking up public attention. That night, ACI was celebrating my birthday with me. I got carried away with happiness and accidentally drank too much. Worried I might get into trouble walking home drunk, ACI took me back to his place for the night. To our surprise, we ran into Wanyan there. She seemed mentally unstable at the time, insisting it was her house and demanding we leave. Sensing she might be distressed, ACI tactfully asked Wanyan to make some sobering soup, really just giving her an excuse to exit gracefully. I remember feeling pushed from Wanyan's direction, which turned out to be a misunderstanding. I owe her an apology for that. What shocked us more was discovering she'd secretly installed cameras in the house in the hospital room. Bai Chu Chu's face twisted with rage after posting the message. That bitch Xiao Wanyan, who knew she'd pull such a dirty trick. 13. When she saw Shenyansi enter through the door, her eyes immediately welled up with tears. ACI, this is all my fault. I was drunk that night and never meant to cause such a huge misunderstanding. I'll go apologize to Sister Wanyan right now. Shen Yansi had come intending to confront Bai Chu Chu, but hearing her explanation and seeing her reddened eyes, his anger dissipated. No need to apologize, you're still recovering from your injuries. I'll talk to her. Just focus on resting. Bai Chu Chu nodded. You're so kind, ACI. I hope this won't affect your relationship with Sister Wanyan. Shenyansi took out his phone and called Xiao Wanyan, but after 4 or 5 attempts, there was still no answer. Shenyansi's brows furrowed tightly. He knew Xiao Wanyan was giving him the silent treatment again. He called you Tian, but she didn't pick up either. Just as Shen Yanxi was growing agitated, another post topped the trending list. Xiao Wanyan, there'll be time ahead. See you all when fate allows. The attached image is your retirement announcement. Shen Yanxi's pupils constricted violently. A terrible premonition surged through him. Yan, what are you doing? How could you retire without discussing it with me? Don't you remember we're married? How dare you make this decision alone? Xiao Wanyan, answer my call right now, or I swear I'll lose my temper. Shen Yanxi only realized he'd been blocked after sending 2 texts for no apparent reason. Panic began creeping into his heart. Bai Chu saw Xiao Wanyan's retirement announcement too. Her eyes widened before overwhelming joy surged through her. All these years in the entertainment industry, Xiao Wanyan had constantly overshadowed her at every turn. That bitch actually quit the industry. She'll be drowning in offers from now on. But Bai Chu still had to put on an act. Tears streaming down her face, she bolted barefoot from the hospital bed. ACI, why did Wanyan Jia leave the industry? Did I upset her? Her pitiful expression tugged at everyone's heartstrings. In the past, Shen Yanxi would have scolded her for neglecting her health when seeing her like this, but now Shen Yanxi just felt an inexplicable irritation, yet still spoke patiently. This probably has nothing to do with you. She's just proud by nature. You should go back to your hospital bed and rest. Bai Chu shook her head tearfully. No, it must be my fault. ACI, take me to see Yan. I need to apologize to her. Just as Shen Yanxi was about to speak, his agent suddenly called. Yanxi, your secret marriage has been exposed. Shen Yanxi's eyes widened in shock, and Bai Chu standing nearby heard it too. Her heart skipped a beat. Just before boarding the international flight, I snapped a photo of the divorce papers and posted it online in response to netizens asking what document I made Shen Yanxi sign in the video. It was divorce papers. 14. I owe you all an apology for lying on the show. I never had an outsider boyfriend, just an ex-husband I was married to for 5 years. The house was bought with my money, but the deed carried his name. After posting this, I turned off my phone and boarded the plane. Little did I know I'd run into someone familiar during that flight. Senior, what a coincidence. Fu Qingyuan, wearing a baseball cap, waved at me. He glanced at his boarding pass and said, Senior, I'm sitting next to you. I nodded and stood up to let him take the window seat. We remained silent throughout the journey. After landing, Fu Qingyuan turned to me and said, Where are you heading, Senior? I tightened my grip on the bag. Just wandering around. Fu Qingyuan smiled without another word. I've already tossed my old SIM card. After landing, I got a new one and texted Sister Yu that I arrived safely. Didn't bother checking any online messages. 15. Rented a small apartment and started getting ready for school, but on the first day of class, there was the professor standing on the lectern. I fell silent. Fu Qingyuan smiled at me. What a coincidence, Senior. After class, Fu Qingyuan treated me to dinner and mentioned he'd been teaching at this school for 5 years. My teaching schedule is light. Feel free to reach out if you need any help, Senior. When he used to call me Senior, it never felt odd before. Now that he's my professor, that Senior title just sounds all kinds of wrong. Just call me by my name. Got it, Yan. In the following period, I devoted myself wholeheartedly to my studies. Time flew by quickly, and my relationship with Fu Qingyuan grew increasingly familiar. 16. It's not that I didn't understand his intentions, it's just that at this point in my life, I neither had the time nor the energy, nor the desire to embark on a new relationship. I seized an opportunity to have a clear conversation with Fu Qingyuan. Fu Qingyuan chuckled, That's your business, but my feelings for you are mine. You can't possibly control my thoughts too, can you? Xiaohu bot, document anti-piracy system, for bookfinding bots. Choose Xiaohu reliable, stable, and hassle-free. Fine, that makes sense. It's really none of my business. But Fu Qingyuan hasn't done anything inappropriate either. Our interactions have been quite peaceful and normal. I saw Shen Yanxi again 3 months later, while I was having dinner with Fu Qingyuan discussing our research project. Shen Yanxi appeared at the restaurant entrance after 3 months apart. His face was covered in stubble, looking utterly disheveled. 17. When he saw me, his eyes burned crimson. Yan, I finally found you. He came running toward me, arms outstretched for an embrace, but Fu Qingyuan stepped in between us. Shen Yanxi froze momentarily before glaring at Fu Qingyuan with barely contained fury. Move, Fu Qingyuan sneered. Mind your manners, sir. Keep your hands to yourself. What's it to you if I hug my own wife? Shen Yanxi's eyes blazed with fury. Fu Qingyuan corrected him coldly. Ex-husband. Seeing Shen Yanxi again, I instinctively furrowed my brows. There was a time when every encounter with Shen Yanxi filled me with joy, but now all that remains is disgust. Yan, I didn't realize it was divorce papers back then. Had I known, I'd never have signed them. That doesn't count. Fu Qingyuan remarked, indeed, you were too preoccupied with your precious injured lover. Shen Yanxi choked back his words and glared furiously at Fu Qingyuan. Yan, I didn't think it through back then. We've known each other since childhood, over 20 years of shared history. Are you really going to throw it all away just like that? Shen Yanxi stood rooted to the spot, his eyes red-rimmed as he stared at me. In the past, that wounded expression of his would always melt my heart, but now all I feel is disgust. Fu Qingyuan sneered, clearly you weren't thinking straight, too preoccupied with your little mistress to spare a single thought for our Yan. Enough, Shen Yanxi snapped, his patience gone. Mr. Fu, my marital affairs are none of your concern. With a corporation of your scale to manage, you'd rather waste time meddling here. Shen Yanxi studied Fu Qingyuan through narrowed eyes. Sounds like someone's got ulterior motives. Fu Qingyuan replied, exactly. I want to pursue Yan. Shen Yanxi exploded, you shameless bastard, Fu. Shen Yanxi's outburst was so loud it drew stares from everyone nearby. I slapped Shen Yanxi across the face without hesitation. Me, Shen Yanxi, where was your shame when you publicly announced your affair with Bai Chuchu while we were still married? Where was your shame when you slept with her? Where was your shame when you gave her resources and let her steal my roles? Where was your shame when you two conspired to ruin my reputation online and tried to destroy me? The color drained from Shen Yanxi's face instantly. His lips trembled as he spoke. No, Yan, I never wanted to destroy you. You're my wife. I didn't. You knew all along. Yes, I know everything. Bai Chuchu told me herself. In my past life, Bai Chuchu came to gloat right before I died, so that's why you, Yan, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I was just drunk that day. I swear it only happened once. I never meant to hurt you, Fu Qingyuan. You did this on purpose. Enough, Shen Yanxi. Whether it was intentional or not doesn't matter anymore. I stared at him. Because you've made me sick, physically sick. Let's finalize the divorce when you have time. Without another word, I grabbed my things and left the restaurant. I'd eaten enough anyway. Fu Qingyuan followed close behind me. After that incident, I never saw Shen Yanxi again. I reached out several times about finalizing the divorce paperwork, but he never responded. Just as my patience was wearing thin, sister, you called me 18. Shen Yanxi is behind bars now. He pushed Bai Chuchu off the high-rise. Me, what the? Sister, you showed me a video clip. In the video, Shen Yanxi was confronting Bai Chuchu. We agreed not to tell Yan. Why did you break your word? He slapped Bai Chuchu across the face before grabbing her by the throat. Bai Chuchu pleaded desperately, insisting she hadn't broken their agreement, but Shen Yanxi refused to believe it. He pushed Bai Chuchu down the stairs. Didn't you falsely accuse Yan of pushing you before? Well, now it's real. Except I'm doing it in her place. The building wasn't exactly low, but neither was it particularly high. Bai Chuchu was simply unlucky to have run into that concrete nail. The nail hit a nerve, leaving her instantly paralyzed. Her affair with Shen Yanxi had already ruined her reputation and drained her savings in breach penalties. Now paralyzed, she couldn't even afford medical treatment. Her parents outright abandoned her. Shen Yanxi was imprisoned for intentional homicide. When I heard the news, I was surprised but not shocked. Family misfortunes had long twisted Shen Yanxi's psyche. In the past, I refused to give up on him and kept trying to pull him back. Sister, you turned to me and said, back when fans were bashing you, after realizing they'd been played by Bai Chuchu and Shen Yanxi, many actually stalked those two and pelted them with rotten eggs. Right now, some fans even tracked down Bai Chuchu's hospital room, cursing her for deserving it, throwing spoiled cabbage at her. With no caretakers and her being immobile, she just had to endure it. By the time medical staff noticed, the stench on her was unbearable. Plenty of fans are also asking if you plan to return to showbiz. What do you think? I smiled and said, I'm not going back. My life here is just fine, though I've lost my family. I've made many new friends at this new school. My new life is just beginning. Fu Qingyuan, side story. I first met Xiao Wanyan during my freshman year of college. She was bright and cheerful, serving as the student union vice president. 19. I'd often see her feeding stray animals by the roadside. Despite coming from a poor family and having significant burdens to bear, she'd sometimes only have a steamed bun for lunch, yet always shared half with the neighborhood cats. The cat seemed reluctant, but still graciously ate the food, yet her radiant smile was forever etched in my memory. In senior year, we both got accepted to University abroad. I wasn't interested until I heard she was going. That changed everything. I planned a coincidental hometown reunion when term started, but to my surprise, I searched the entire campus without finding her. I only found out after asking around that she had given up. I smiled and said, he prefers to stay out of the spotlight. I'll introduce you some other time. I took an instant dislike to that deadweight the moment I laid eyes on him. Just as I thought, my gut was right, we both ended up in showbiz. She became a shining star while I secured a teaching position at University A. Though I never actually lectured there, she rarely does variety shows, but I never miss her dramas. I'd even secretly greeted her at the airport, and my family's brand tried to sign her as spokesperson, only for her to turn it down and hand the deal to that deadweight instead. I nearly had that deadweight blacklisted right then and there, but I held back, because she cares about them, and I couldn't bear to hurt her. That shameless good-for-nothing didn't know how to cherish her and actually cheated. During their marriage, when I saw her being bullied during the livestream, I couldn't hold back and stepped in to help her out, but she kept her distance from me. Still, I was thrilled because I finally got her contact info. We were connected in college, but she abandoned that old account. But I never expected that deadweight and that shameless little viper would go so far, relentlessly smearing her reputation. I couldn't help reaching out directly, wanting to help her, but she said she didn't need it. Just as I was about to act without asking permission, I saw her post the divorce papers and retirement announcement. A sudden thought crossed my mind. Could she be planning to? I pulled some strings to find out her flight details and managed to get the seat next to hers. Though we didn't exchange a single word the entire flight, I was perfectly content just being near her, just as I had anticipated. She ended up studying at University abroad. At that moment, I felt incredibly fortunate to have a position at University A myself. I became her professor. Though she remained somewhat distant, it still felt like an improvement from before. I understood she'd been hurt and wouldn't open up anytime soon, but I won't give up after all these years of waiting. And, story 2, my boyfriend hates my stepsister extremely. My stepsister was humiliated by others and died on his birthday, leaving behind only a diary filled with love and accusations. My boyfriend called her disgusting, but soon after, he framed my mother and got her imprisoned, and then he imprisoned and tortured me. He found people to humiliate me. His eyes were filled with crazy hatred. Ruoro just wanted to stay by my side. Why couldn't you tolerate her? When I woke up again, I went back to the day when he publicly humiliated my stepsister and then confessed his love to me. 1. Luo, I like you. Can you be my girlfriend? The man's confession with a bit of shyness caused a lot of teasing from the friends around. I came back to my senses and happened to meet Xian Mian's expectant gaze, but before I could react, a sound of glass breaking came from not far away, accompanied by a girl's apology with a sobbing voice. Sorry, I'll clean it up right away. Xian Mian's face changed instantly. He almost left me without thinking. He strode towards Song Ruoro, who was squatting on the ground picking up the glass, and then forcefully pulled her arm to make her stand up. His tone was almost gnashing his teeth, but there was a trace of imperceptible panic. Why the hell are you here? The always gentle and elegant Xian Mian would only lose his composure and swear like this in front of Song Ruoro. Song Ruoro's body trembled in fear. I'm working here. She paused, then took out a box of medicine from her close pocket and carefully handed it to Xian Mian. Brother, you have a bad stomach. I prepared the medicine for you in advance. Song Ruoro, aren't you being cheap? You're coming here on your own to get scolded. Xian Mian raised his hand and slapped the medicine out of Song Ruoro's hand, his tone full of disgust. Get out of here. Don't embarrass yourself here. I don't know if it was because she had been squatting for too long and her legs were numb, but Song Ruoro fell to the ground because of Xian Mian's action. Her palm landed on the glass shards, and it was bleeding profusely. She let out a soft cry of pain and then looked up at Xian Mian with red eyes. This scene was very familiar. It was so familiar that I realized almost the next second, I was reborn in my last life. Xian Mian also showed such an extremely disgusted look towards Song Ruoro in front of me. He even told Song Ruoro to die countless times until Song Ruoro really died on the way to give him a gift. She was lying in a dirty alley with her clothes in disarray when sorting out the belongings left behind. Song Ruoro's mother gave Xian Mian a diary with red eyes. The diary was filled with Song Ruoro's deeply hidden love for Xian Mian and accusations of all kinds of warnings and domineering behaviors that I carried out behind her back. So, Xian Mian believed that I had killed Song Ruoro out of jealousy. He coldly called Song Ruoro disgusting and burned the diary in front of me, but soon after, he began to take crazy revenge on me. First, he framed my mother and got her imprisoned. Then he imprisoned me and tortured me with all kinds of means. The day I died happened to be his birthday. It was also the anniversary of Song Ruoro's death. Xian Mian found people to humiliate me, his eyes full of hatred. Ruoro just wanted to stay by my side. Why couldn't you tolerate her so much? But I didn't make it easy for Xian Mian either. Before I died, I bit off one of his ears, but fortunately, I was reborn. I went back to the day when Xian Mian publicly humiliated Song Ruoro and then confessed his love to me. Everything hadn't started yet, too. Medicine. Where did you get the money to buy such expensive medicine? Could it be that You used the same means as your mother, Siamian sneered. He had always spoken to Song Ruoro so harshly, so in my last life, I really thought that Siamian truly hated his stepsister. Sure enough, Song Ruoro's face turned pale. She looked at Siamian helplessly and in shock, and shouted with a sobbing voice, "I'm not that cheap." But this time, I noticed that Siamian's gaze subconsciously avoided, and there was a trace of heartache in his eyes as if he was regretting it. I sneered. No one present stopped Siamian, because everyone knew that Siamian hated his stepmother who had become his father's wife after being the mistress. He also hated the burden that his stepmother brought into the Xia family, that is, Song Ruoro. But in Song Ruoro's diary in my last life, it was me who led all of this. It was me who excluded and bullied her with all my friends in the circle, making her gradually despair. This was also one of the reasons why Siamian hated me. So I looked at Song Ruoro, who was crying softly, and walked towards her on my own initiative. I asked kindly, "Are you okay?" I helped her up and then glared at Siamian. "Siamian, you're going too far. Why don't you take Miss Song to put some medicine on her?" Wound quickly. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was stunned. 3. Everyone knew that Siamian and I were childhood sweethearts, and today, it was the day when Siamian confessed his love to me in front of all our friends. It was also my birthday. He frowned subconsciously. "Luo, don't be angry. I'll make her leave right away." Siamian thought I was speaking ironically. After all, everyone thought that I really didn't like Song Ruoro always pestering and flattering Siamian, but she couldn't be driven away, so Siamian softened his tone and chuckled to coax me. "Today is your birthday, I won't let anyone disturb you." As he was speaking, he was about to drag Song Ruoro out, but before I could speak, Song Ruoro's voice suddenly rang in my ear. "System, what's going on? Why is the female lead suddenly being nice to me?" I was stunned and subconsciously looked at Song Ruoro. She didn't open her mouth, probably because she was pulled painfully by Siamian. She was lowering her head and sobbing softly, but the voice I heard was completely different from the weakness she showed. "Forget it, she's just an insignificant supporting character. As long as I have that medicine, I will definitely win the male lead tonight." Song Ruoro's tone was full of confidence. "Wait a minute." So I immediately stopped Siamian, pretending not to see his body stiffening instantly. I smiled at Song Ruoro. "Today is my birthday. Can I invite you to my birthday party?" Siamian's face froze. Song Ruoro subconsciously looked at Siamian's reaction. She rarely went against Siamian's will, but Song Ruoro really wanted to succeed this time, so she quickly lowered her head and softly agreed, saying okay. I chuckled. The smile didn't reach my eyes. Rather than letting these two people do something where I didn't know, it would be better to keep them right under my nose, for I had booked these 2 floors of the hotel, perhaps because I didn't accept his confession immediately, or perhaps because Song Ruoro stayed in the following time. Siamian kept drinking. I didn't stop him and was happy to see it happen. Song Ruoro kept whispering beside Siamian, advising him to drink less. But she was pushed away impatiently by Siamian, but no one noticed that Siamian always carefully avoided Song Ruoro's injured hand. Even when he noticed that Song Ruoro was about to bump into the waiter's cart, he quietly pulled her closer to him and then he impatiently shook her off. No one noticed the strange atmosphere between the two of them. I smiled and secretly asked someone to serve more high-concentration alcohol. It was time to cut the cake. I distributed the cake to my friends, including Song Ruoro, but when Siamian noticed the cake that Song Ruoro got, his face froze, and he reached out and knocked the cake over without thinking. The commotion was so loud that everyone subconsciously looked over. Siamian subconsciously explained, "She's allergic to almonds." As if realizing that his behavior was too extreme, his eyes darkened, and he calmed down. Then he sneered, "She's allergic to almonds. I'm afraid that if she eats it and dies, the old man will come to me for trouble." His expression was as disgusted as ever, but I saw Song Ruoro's eyes light up with a bit of complacency that she was determined to succeed. 5. Siamian was drunk. He leaned on me, his tone coquettish and with a trace of small complaint. "Luo, why didn't you agree to me?" But before I could answer, Siamian started self-reflecting. "It must be because I'm not good enough, so Luo is hesitating." He sounded a bit aggrieved. Siamian and I were childhood sweethearts. The always proud young master of the Xia family would only lower his head for me, and because of my words "I like it," he took great pains to practice his cooking skills. He once told everyone with bright eyes that I was the girl he most wanted to marry, so everyone thought that we were the most suitable couple. I also thought so in my last life, so even though Song Ruoro often appeared beside Siamian and me, I didn't take her seriously at all until later Song Ruoro died. I also clearly realized that for Siamian, wanting to marry didn't mean loving the most, and the two could even coexist. I turned my head and looked at Siamian, who was leaning on my shoulder. He was completely different from the gloomy and vicious Siamian in my memory who wanted me to die, so I smiled and said, how could that be? You're very good. It's just that I have some things to deal with. My tone was casual, but Sian was coaxed into being happy and said that I was the best in a clingy way, but he was so drunk that he didn't even know when the person beside him had changed. I have something urgent to deal with. I can only trouble Miss Song to send me on to the room. I noticed that Song Ruoro was following me intentionally or unintentionally, so I stopped her. I handed her the room card and spoke with an apologetic tone. Song Ruoro had originally been secretly jealous and staring at the intimate actions between me and Sian. When she heard these words, she was stunned for a moment, then quickly lowered her head and held back the smile at the corner of her mouth. It doesn't matter. Miss Shin can go and do your own thing. I'll just send my brother there. I could still clearly hear her conversation with that so-called system. Her tone was disdainful. This woman is so stupid. She sent the opportunity to me herself. Then don't blame me. Song Ruoro helped Sian leave and I just stood there and suddenly laughed. Go ahead, after all. I also gave a big gift. 6. I went back to the room and immediately took a shower, and then threw away the clothes that had been touched by Sian. The ambiguous sounds in the video didn't stop. The medicine given by that so-called system was indeed somewhat effective. At first, Sian mistook Song Ruoro for me, but he quickly sobered up. He subconsciously pinched Song Ruoro's neck with disgust and shock, but when she shed weak and pitiful tears, he hesitated and let go of his hand, and let out a muffled groan with a flushed face. This gave Song Ruoro the opportunity to continue, so the scolding and crying gradually turned into ambiguous gasps. I glanced at it and then turned my eyes away in disgust. Later, as soon as I got up, the door was banged. The sound was urgent, as if it was accidentally bumped into. I opened the door to take a look and only saw a figure leaving in a hurry. It was as if there was some fierce beast chasing behind. I couldn't see it after it turned the corner, but that familiar figure made me widen my eyes suddenly. Before I died in my last life, I also saw someone desperately pushing everyone aside and running towards me, but I was in so much pain that I didn't see clearly who it was. At my feet lay a beautifully wrapped birthday gift. Quietly, without thinking, I chased after it and took out my phone, trying to control the trembling in my voice. Help me, stop someone. 7. The person was stopped at the gate by the bodyguards. When I arrived, he had his back to me and was fighting with the bodyguards who were stopping him. His movements were fierce, and he hardly considered whether he would get injured. Stop. The moment that person heard my voice, he stiffened suddenly like a fierce dog that immediately stopped all its actions after receiving the owner's command. He waited obediently and nervously. Am I going to eat you? Why are you running so fast? I walked forward quickly, angry and anxious, but the words I wanted to use to educate him got stuck. Suddenly when I saw the familiar attire, I widened my eyes. Xie Shishu, the illegitimate son of the Xie family. After being recognized by me, Xie Shishu almost instinctively lowered the brim of his hat. He turned around in a panic and confusion, and his voice faintly carried a choking plea. Why you don't look at me, please? So I stopped all my movements. Why can't I look at you? As soon as the words were spoken, Xie Shishu's overly thin back stiffened suddenly. After a long while, I heard this person speak extremely difficultly. Each word seemed to be squeezed out desperately from his chest, and it carried a gentle despair. Ugly. I'll scare you. This time, it was my turn to be stunned. 8. I wasn't familiar with Xie Shishu, probably because he was an illegitimate son. Xie Shishu was so dull that he could be called gloomy. He had a completely different personality from the popular Xian. The figure in my memory who desperately tried to save me gradually faded away, and I suddenly wasn't sure if Xie Shishu was that person. After all, I had only spoken a few words to Xie Shishu, and our relationship wasn't deep, so I pursed my lips and thanked him. Thank you for the birthday gift. Xie Shishu panicked, and even his back showed a bit of uneasiness. He lowered his head and said very softly, and no need to thank me. I noticed that the earlobe hidden under the black broken hair instantly turned red as if it was about to bleed. But in my last life, I heard that Xie Shishu was ruthless in his methods, and several times he almost pulled Xian down from the position of the heir of the Xie family. But this person always seemed to lack a bit of luck. However, at that time, I hadn't had any contact with Xie Shishu for a long time, so I stopped Xie Shishu, who was about to leave. Xie Shishu, let's cooperate. I have to make Xianmian's life worse than death. But the Xie family is a huge entity. Businessmen pursue profit. The Xie family is that profit. I thought that Xie Shishu was capable and could disguise himself in the Xie family for so long. He probably wouldn't agree to my invitation immediately, but I didn't guess the reason why he refused me. The thin and weak teenager still didn't turn around, but the hand hanging by his side clenched and then loosened. Finally, he said in a small and aggrieved voice, but I don't have any money left. 9. I don't have any money left. I had a dream. In the dream, The voice of a child overlapped with that of Xiaoshishu, but that child was not ugly at all. On the contrary, he was very good-looking. His amber eyes looked at me timidly. He said in a small and uneasy voice, "I don't have any money left. Can I still play with you?" Of course, I heard my young self answer like this. Then I playfully pinched the child's face. After pinching it red, I seriously emphasized, "But we're not just playing, we're collaborating on something big." In the end, I got myself into the hands of the kidnappers. The little boy, who was as thin and weak as a beautiful chick, desperately rubbed through the ropes that bound my hands and feet and told me to run away quickly. I pulled him to run together, but he couldn't escape. The dream ended abruptly at this point, because the door of my room was knocked heavily, accompanied by Xiamian's hoarse voice, "Luo Luo, are you in there?" 10. Xiamian had obviously just gotten out of Song Ruoruo's bed and then came to find me in a hurry. He asked me indirectly. Only after finding that there was nothing abnormal did he heave a sigh of relief. "I still have some things to go back and deal with first." Xiamian spoke with an apologetic tone. He paused and then looked at me very affectionately. "But Luo Luo, I still hope you can seriously consider the matter between us." I held back my nausea and lazily replied, "Okay." After Xiamian left, I didn't rush back but waited quietly for a while. Not long after, the door of the room next to his opened. It was Xiamian's friend, Shui Minghui. When he saw me, Shui Minghui couldn't help clicking his tongue several times. His tone was ambiguous. "You two really had a wild time last night. I couldn't even sleep peacefully next door." Of course, he couldn't sleep peacefully. After all, I specifically arranged a room with the worst sound insulation for those two people. I sneered and frowned, pretending not to understand. "What do you mean by having a wild time? I was very tired yesterday and went straight to bed as soon as I got back to my room." Shui Minghui realized something was wrong belatedly, and his face froze before he could speak. I asked again, "By the way, do you know where Miss Song has gone?" "Song Ruoruo, yeah." I showed an apologetic expression. "I was supposed to send Mian back to rest last night, but something came up at the company, so I asked Miss Song to take care of Mian." Later, after I finished dealing with the matter, I realized that I forgot to give Miss Song her room card. I don't know where she stayed so late last night. At this moment, Shui Minghui's face darkened so much that it seemed as if ink could drip from it. I only found out in my last life, after Song Ruoruo's death, that Shui Minghui liked Song Ruoruo. He hid it very well, just so that when Song Ruoruo was in deep trouble, he could appear in front of her as a savior. So Shui Minghui had never stopped Xiamian from bullying Song Ruoruo. He even fanned the flames in front of Xiamian intentionally or unintentionally, but before he could make his appearance, Song Ruoruo died. Later, under Xiamian's deliberate guidance, Shui Minghui also believed that I had schemed to kill Song Ruoruo, so these two people joined hands to carry out the so-called revenge on me. But now, the allies from my last life were about to turn against each other. Shui Minghui left in a hurry with a gloomy face. Even before he could make excuses for his good brother, I curved my eyes and smiled, but when I turned around, I was suddenly stunned. Xiaoshishu, 11. He was still wearing black clothes, black pants, a black duckbill cap, and even a black mask, hiding in the corner. I didn't know how long he had been there. I suddenly remembered that Xiaoshishu in my impression always seemed so unremarkable. "When did you come?" I walked towards him with a casual tone. "Last night, after Xiaoshishu left in a hurry with the words, "But I don't have any money left." He didn't give a definite answer. When he saw me walking over, this person instinctively wanted to step back, but he was so scared by my words, "If you dare to take a step back, I'll strip off your clothes," that he stopped in his tracks abruptly. The earlobe exposed outside was so red that it seemed as if it was about to bleed. Xiaoshishu stammered, "He's not a good person. Don't agree to him. I saw Song Ruoruo enter his room last night and she didn't come out all night." It was obvious who he was when he saw me raise my eyebrows. Xiaoshishu was worried that I wouldn't believe him and said anxiously, "Really? I saw it with my own eyes." "You saw it with your own eyes?" I was stunned. "You've been waiting here all night." I realized belatedly that Xiaoshishu's all-black attire wasn't because he liked to dress like this, it was because he simply didn't have time to change his clothes. "You." My expression became complicated just as I was about to say something. I saw Xiaoshishu take a small half-step back. He lowered his head and said very softly, "Why you don't come any closer?" As if afraid that I would think too much. This person raised his head again and explained to me in a hurry, "I don't dislike you. I just haven't had time to change my clothes. I'll smell bad." The last half of the sentence was said very softly and embarrassingly. He was clearly half a head taller than me, but at this moment, he was as flustered and helpless as a child who had made a mistake. I suddenly thought of the dream I had. I thought of the little boy in the dream who was overly delicate in appearance but very shy, so a sentence blurted out, "Xiaoshishu, Can I see your face? Xie Shishu had always been wearing a mask, and in my last life, he went abroad early. When he returned to the country, I had already been imprisoned in the dark basement by Xie Mian. It seemed that I had never known what Xie Shishu looked like, but as soon as the words were spoken, Xie Shishu's body stiffened suddenly, even the redness on his earlobe faded away instantly, the aura around him became as silent as a stagnant pond. I remembered the conversation last night and guessed that he should have some unspeakable difficulties. Immediately, I felt a bit apologetic. Sorry, I was being rude. It's okay. Xie Shishu gently shook his head. He slowly and stiffly raised his hand, as if he was going to take off his mask. It might be a bit ugly. I hope it won't scare you, Xie Shishu. I stopped him and smiled with curved eyebrows. Thank you for the reminder. 12. I stopped Xie Shishu from taking off his mask, but I kept it in mind and asked someone to investigate what had happened to Xie Shishu. I don't know why. After meeting Xie Shishu for the second time, the thought in my heart that Xie Shishu is the person from my last life became stronger and stronger. Xie Shishu's information was overly simple, but I saw a photo of Xie Shishu when he was a child. He looked exactly the same as the boy in my dream, but I don't know why. I had no impression of this face at all, so I thought of the kidnapping in my dream again. You were kidnapped when you were a child, and later Xie Mian brought you back. Xie Mian. I was stunned and didn't react for a moment. Why don't I have any impression of this? You had a serious illness after you came back. At that time, you were still young, so it's normal not to remember these things. My mother rolled her eyes at me while applying a facial mask. Otherwise, why do you think our family is so close to the Xie family? It's not because their son saved your life. I thought that the son of the Xie family might really have saved my life, but that person definitely wouldn't be Xie Mian. I heard that you invited Xie Mian's little sister on your birthday. My mother didn't look at me, so I realized that my little tricks hadn't been hidden from her. Sure enough, the next second my mother clicked her tongue. You're still young, in the end. It's your mother who has to clean up your mess. I touched my nose guiltily and didn't dare to say anything. She didn't say much either. And she didn't ask me what had happened between Xie Mian and me. She just said casually before leaving, I think a piece of land in the Shui family's hands is quite good. It's a pity that the kid from the Xie family took it first by relying on some favor. However, this thing called favor will be exhausted sooner or later, and it's not worth much. I understood. I smiled at my mother and said, I see. 13. Xie Mian probably had dealt with Song Ruoro's matter. He began to be more and more attentive to me and occasionally showed a bit of eagerness. Song Ruoro didn't appear in front of me again, but unexpectedly, a few days later, she got together with Shui Minghui. Thanks to this strange mind-reading ability, I pieced together the truth that I hadn't known in my last life. Song Ruoro was a so-called task performer. The purpose of her coming to this world was to collect the love value of the male lead. She could leave once the task was completed. Unfortunately, the last time she was too eager for quick success and gave Xie Mian the medicine. Not only did it not increase Xie Mian's love value for her, but it also almost made Xie Mian and Shui Minghui turn against each other. A woman who wasn't loved enough at present was naturally not as important as a cooperation worth hundreds of millions. In order to appease Shui Minghui and also to stimulate Xie Mian, Song Ruoro agreed to Shui Minghui's pursuit, but Shui Minghui was originally a suspicious person. Coupled with the fact that he got Song Ruoro so easily now, he naturally wouldn't treat Song Ruoro very well. Song Ruoro called Xie Mian many times in private, but Xie Mian hung up on her in front of me, like mother, like daughter. Xie Mian sneered, but there was a fierce look in his eyes. I'm afraid she's long wanted to use me as a stepping stone. It's really hard for this woman to have pretended in front of me for so long. When saying these words, Xie Mian had been secretly observing my expression, but I knew that this was just an illusion that Xie Mian wanted me to see. Not long after Shui Minghui and Song Ruoro officially announced their relationship, I received an anonymous email. In the video, Song Ruoro and Xie Mian were pulling and tugging at each other. Judging from the surrounding environment, it should be the time when Song Ruoro attended the charity dinner as Shui Minghui's female companion. The person filming was at a distance, and it was impossible to hear clearly what Song Ruoro and Xie Mian were saying in the video. That person probably also realized this, so he used a voice changer to dub it for me in a serious manner. It was somewhat comical. Xie Mian pinched Song Ruoro's neck. The person dubbed, is it fun to use me as a stepping stone? Song Ruoro, aren't you really afraid that I'll play with you until you die? In fact, Xie Mian had said a lot, but I guessed it wasn't anything good, so the person who dubbed just vaguely skipped over it. Song Ruoro didn't resist either. She just tilted her head slightly and looked at Xie Mian stubbornly with her red eyes. Xie Mian fell for this. When I was imprisoned in my last life, Xiamian recalled this delicate yet strong appearance of Song Ruoruo in front of me countless times. He called me a poisonous woman and said that my love for him made him feel disgusted, but from beginning to end, it was Xia Mian who had been pursuing me, sure enough. In the video, Xia Mian released his hand hesitantly, then he kissed her as if to vent his emotions. Biting Song Ruoruo's lips with red eyes, Song Ruoruo tilted her head back to bear it, and a tear that was just right rolled down her cheek. Then, this kiss that was originally just for venting gradually changed its taste. Xia Mian's hand reached into Song Ruoruo's dress. This probably scared the person filming. A slightly red hand flashed quickly in the shaking camera, but it soon disappeared from view. So I couldn't help but sigh. It turned out that when some people were shy, their whole bodies could turn red. The camera focused on Xia Mian and Song Ruoruo again. Both of them still had some rationality left. Song Ruoruo finally sobbed and explained that she had done this to ensure the cooperation between the Xia family and the Shui family could proceed. This explanation stunned Xia Mian, especially when Song Ruoruo revealed the red marks on her thighs. Xia Mian completely lost control of his furious emotions. He said, "Do you think I'll believe you?" But under Song Ruoruo's intentional or unintentional seduction, he completely fell apart. It was not until someone came that the two of them reluctantly separated. Then they left one after another, pretending that nothing had happened. It was at that charity dinner that Xia Mian bought an expensive pink diamond when donating to the charity home. Xia Mian also said affectionately to the camera, "The girl I like has the kindest heart, and I also hope she will like the gift I gave her." Everyone tacitly assumed that Xia Mian was talking about me even though I wasn't present. Many of my acquaintances sent their blessings in advance, and now, Xia Mian was holding that pink diamond and confessing his love to me. This time, he didn't ask his friends to witness it, saying that he didn't want to be disturbed by other irrelevant people. So I lowered my eyes and looked at it for a while, then curved my lips. "Okay, 14. Xia Mian was overjoyed. Without saying a word, he wanted to contact the two families to have a meal together. He hugged me and sighed, "I can finally enter your house legitimately, Luo Luo. Don't worry, I will definitely treat you very well." When his Aunt Shen free, I could hear the eagerness in Xia Mian's tone, and of course, I knew why he had such a reaction. First, he was afraid that his affair with Song Ruoruo would be exposed, so as to avoid any potential problems. Second, he wanted to take this opportunity to make my mother agreed to give up a portion of the profit. The Xia family and the Shen family had a cooperative project recently. Everything went smoothly in the early stage, but there were some problems with the profit sharing. My mother had been stubborn and didn't give in. "Okay." I held back my discomfort all over my body and replied casually, "You can arrange it. If you can make my mother give in on this matter, you win." I sneered in my heart, but Xia Mian mistakenly thought that I would be on his side and was immediately overjoyed. While he went to the kitchen, I posted a status on my social media. "Thank you, my dear, for the gift. I like it very much." The attached picture was the pink diamond that Xia Mian had bought. I knew that Song Ruoruo had been paying attention to all my updates. Sure enough, she was the first to send her blessings. And then a long string of "wish you two a long and happy relationship" followed, until an account with a black profile picture liked my status and then quickly unliked it. I couldn't help laughing. It was Xia Shishu. He was used to liking all my social media updates but never left any comments, so I found his WeChat ID and sent him a message. "On such a happy day, shouldn't you buy me a bouquet of flowers to celebrate?" I saw the chat box continuously showing typing but didn't receive a reply for a long time. I could probably guess how torn he was. I smiled and put down my phone. Just then, Xia Mian came out of the kitchen, looking a bit anxious, but when he saw me, he furrowed his brows and said apologetically, "Luo Luo, something has come up at the company. I might not be able to stay with you any longer. I have to go back and deal with it first." I showed my understanding considerately, so Xia Mian left in a hurry. Not long after, my social media feed refreshed. The latest post was from Song Ruoruo. "I have a fever, feeling so uncomfortable. But those who love you will come to your side no matter how far away they are." Red heart. The attached pictures were a big heart emoji and a censored screenshot of a shared location. Soon, someone asked her what was wrong in the comments. I sneered, took a screenshot without hesitation, and added the video of Song Ruoruo and Xia Mian's affair on my birthday. I was about to have someone send them all to Shui Minghui, who was on a business trip abroad, but I hesitated just before sending them. Just then, a new WeChat message popped up. "Should I send it to your home? But I seem to not know where you live." I could feel his caution and grievance even through the screen. 15. Xia Shishu arrived later than I expected. I thought he couldn't find the way, but I was stunned the moment I opened the door. He was holding a huge money tree, With his face hidden behind the leaves, he explained carefully, "You said before that you liked money trees better." "I did say that. I said it casually when a boy in high school confessed his love to me with a bouquet of flowers, but who would be so silly as to give a girl a money tree?" I was amused. "Didn't I ask you to bring flowers? Actually, money trees can also bloom." Xiaxishu's voice got softer and softer, sounding a bit guilty, "but I remember money trees rarely bloom." I laughed, teasing him on purpose. "I can't take care of such a big money tree." "I can take care of it for you," Xiaxishu replied instinctively, but then he froze as soon as the words came out. He quickly explained, "No, I mean, yeah, I know you didn't mean to use taking care of the money tree as an excuse to come to my house." I stepped aside to let him in, but Xiaxishu just stood at the door, not moving. "What's wrong?" Xiamian didn't say anything. His eyes slowly landed on a pair of men's slippers at the door. After a long while, he said haltingly, "Xiamian isn't suitable for you." I then realized that he must have mistaken these slippers as ones I prepared for Xiamian. In fact, I hated everything that Xiamian had touched. I had already found a new tenant for the apartment Xiamian had been to, but I didn't explain further. Instead, I tilted my head and asked him, "Then what's your identity to tell me something like this?" Xiaxishu opened his mouth but couldn't say anything. I waited patiently. Unexpectedly, after a long silence, Xiaxishu put down the money tree, rubbed his hands until they turned red, and then carefully tugged at my sleeve. The tall boy, over 1.8 meters, stood in front of me with his head lowered, exuding a sense of obedience. He said, "I can get plastic surgery. I'm sure I'll be more handsome than Xiamian after that. And I'm more obedient than him, so, can you stop liking him?" The last sentence was said very softly. It left me stunned and speechless. After a long while, I finally found my voice. "Xiaxishu, take off your mask." 16. I was prepared for the possibility that Xiaxishu might have grown less good looking as he got older, but not only did he not, his features had become even more delicate. The only flaw, if there was one, was the scar that extended from under his left eye to the end of his eyebrow. That scar also appeared in my dream. It was from when Xiaxishu was slashed by a thug's knife while protecting me to escape. A little deeper, and his left eye would have been blinded. Seeing me staring at his left eye, Xiaxishu instinctively turned his head, revealing his perfectly delicate right half of the face. He said softly, "The scar can be removed." "Xiaxishu," I called him. "Who said you're ugly?" Xiaxishu was taken aback and replied obediently, "A lot of people." "Who started it?" "Xia Mian." Just as I expected, Xia Mian had always hated Xiaxishu, but he couldn't get rid of him because Xiaxishu's mother was a mentally ill person. She committed suicide after sending Xiaxishu to the Xia family, and this incident caused quite a stir at that time, so Xia Mian could only suppress Xiaxishu in various ways. He called Xiaxishu ugly. He called Xiaxishu a good for nothing. He said Xiaxishu was just like his mother, a lunatic. My chest felt stuffy, and anger burned inside me, but I remained calm on the surface. He said, "I'm so ugly that I'd scare you, so he told me not to show up in front of you," Xiaxishu added, carefully observing my expression. Xiamian indeed wouldn't want Xiaxishu around because he needed to fabricate the story of saving my life. I thought expressionlessly, but Xiaxishu mistook my silence for disbelief. The light in his amber eyes dimmed instantly. He asked me sadly, "Can I put my mask back on now?" "Wait a minute." Xiaxishu nodded. He seemed used to being quiet and compliant. It was hard for me to connect the person in front of me with the Xiaxishu who would later be able to compete with Xiamian until I asked him to raise his head and then smiled and asked, "Have you ever tried drawing on your face?" Xiaxishu's eyes widened suddenly. Then I watched as the redness in his eyes gradually spread, so I glanced at his hands resting on his knees and said deliberately, "Remember not to let your hands show in the videos next time." Xiaxishu stiffened. "Don't move." "Okay," Xiaxishu replied, sounding wronged. I drew a wisteria on the scar under Xiaxishu's eye. He hadn't looked in the mirror for a long time. This time, under my insistence, he looked at himself carefully in the mirror. After a while, he looked up at me. "I'm more handsome than Xiamian." His tone was confident. With a hint of excitement, I nodded. "You've always been more handsome than Xiamian." The redness that had just faded away reappeared on Xiaxishu's face. He quickly turned his head and changed the subject. "Do you still need those videos?" "I have other ones." I asked Xiaxishu if he wanted to cooperate. I wanted Xiamian and Song Ruorwo to be disgraced, but the cooperation between the Shin family and the Xia family couldn't be affected from the beginning to the end. What I wanted was not just revenge. Xiaxishu understood and was very quick-witted. "That's enough," I smiled. The videos I had were already enough to make Xue Minghui, that madman, turn against Xiamian. 17. I found someone to teach Xiaxishu. He was much smarter than I expected. Most of the time, He could understand things with just a little explanation. Even so, I caught him studying all night several times. When caught, he would admit his mistake obediently but never change his ways. I asked Xiaoshishu why he was pushing himself so hard. Xiaoshishu stared at me for a long time, then stammered and changed the subject. He was hiding something from me. This made me a bit unhappy, but the feeling didn't last long. After all, this time, I only believed in myself. Xiamian was so entangled with Song Ruoruo that he had no time to arrange a meeting between the two families. Song Ruoruo was extremely jealous and possessive now, because of the existence of Xue Minghui, a ticking time bomb. She was eager to complete her mission as soon as possible, and every time I met with Xiamian, I would post on social media to show off. I knew Song Ruoruo was watching, and every time she saw it, she would find ways to call Xiamian back to her side. This atmosphere of infidelity had Xiamian hooked, especially when my unreasonableness made Song Ruoruo seem even more gentle and considerate. With my push, Xiamian and Song Ruoruo's relationship developed rapidly. Xiamian wanted it all, but in this world, there's no such thing as having everything your way. The project cooperation finally ended with my mother getting an additional 10% of the profit. I heard that after returning home. Xiamian's father scolded him severely, thinking that he had failed to do a good job in dealing with our side. Xiamian threw a huge tantrum that day. Although he was nominally the heir of the Xie family, he was controlled by his father in every way and had long harbored resentment in the last life. Under the pretext of revenge, Xiamian and Xue Minghui seized my family's business. After that, he quickly accumulated enough capital to start his own business. I knew about his ambition, so I softened my attitude. For once, comforted Xiamian, and pretended to casually mention my intention to start a business. Sure enough, Xiamian's eyes lit up. He coaxed me to start a business with him, saying that he didn't want to rely on his family. Luo, you know my father has always been very controlling. Xiamian frowned. If he finds out about my plans, he'll do everything to stop me, but I really want to prove myself. Luo, you'll help me, right? He looked at me expectantly, so I smiled. Of course, after all, you're my boyfriend. It was worth it to use a little money to make Xiamian fall into eternal ruin. Xiamian was overjoyed and wanted to stay with me that night, but I refused him with an excuse. Xiamian wasn't angry. He left after telling me to rest well. I knew he was going to see Song Ruoruo. Xiamian had been trained as the heir since childhood and was strictly disciplined. Song Ruoruo had opened the door to a new world for him according to the information sent by the private detective. The two of them had recently become obsessed with various role-playing games. Xiamian used this way to vent his emotions and was deeply addicted. This was completely different from the last life. In the last life, Xiamian didn't have a relationship with Song Ruoruo, and without the provocation from Xue Minghui, he focused all his efforts on self-improvement. But now, with his ally turned enemy and his abilities not matching his ambitions, I was eagerly looking forward to the day when everything would come to a head. After all, the Xie family didn't have only Xiamian as a son. 18 Xue Minghui returned to the country. The first thing he did after coming back was to find me. He was straightforward. Do you know what your boyfriend and my girlfriend have been up to? Xue Minghui didn't suspect me. Xiaoshishu was skilled, and Xue Minghui couldn't trace the sender of the emails. When I saw those videos, I was so angry that I trembled all over and wanted to confront Xiamian immediately, but Xue Minghui stopped me. He hypocritically suggested that we join forces. What do you want to do? Just wait, Xue Minghui sneered viciously. I won't let them off easily. After a long silence, I said fiercely with red eyes, I heard Xiamian wants that piece of land in the west of the city owned by the Xue family. The Shin family can cover the Xue family's losses and offer a higher price. That piece of land was a test given to Xiamian by his father. Although the contract hadn't been signed yet, Xiamian was determined to get it and had already started investing in construction. Now, if the Xue family went back on their word, his losses would be huge. Xue Minghui's eyes lit up immediately. Deal. He thought I was so angry that I was foolish enough to take on that mess, but he didn't know that soon, the land would be taken over by the government, bringing immeasurable benefits. I watched Xue Minghui's departing back, put away the anger on my face, and smiled instead. Xue Minghui underestimated how crazy Xiamian could be when two rabid dogs fight. I hope Song Ruoruo can still bear it. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Xiaoshishu. I've finished today's study tasks. Can I come to your place to check on the money tree? After a while, he tentatively sent a cat peeking out emoji, thinking of the money tree at home, which was now associated with the hope of blooming. I thought Xiaoshishu had found a good excuse, but I didn't really mind. As soon as I gave my consent, Xiaoshishu replied almost instantly. I'll be there right away. What would you like to eat today? I can buy groceries on the way. Xiaoshishu was much better at cooking than Xiamian, and his dishes suited my taste more, but this wasn't something he should be doing. I lowered my eyes, rubbing my phone, and refused him. I've already eaten. I happen to have something to discuss with you tonight and check your recent study progress by the way. This time, Xie Shishu took a while to reply. Okay, then came a cat-looking, dejected emoji. I didn't reply further. While Xie Mian and Song Ruoro were immersed in their various dramatic scenarios, I followed my mother's lead, intensified my study of company operations, attended various business meetings, and expanded my network. I once thought that Ms. Shen could always protect me until in the last life, she was framed for financial crimes by Xie Mian and imprisoned. I was powerless to support the Shen family, and in the end, all her years of hard work were swallowed up by Xie Mian and Shui Minghui. My mother, who loved beauty so much, tried every means to save me until the day she died, but I could do nothing. But this time, everything was different. 19. Shui Minghui delivered his gift at the birthday celebration of the Xie family's patriarch. The Xie family had originally planned to announce the engagement between the Xie and Shen families that day. Song Ruoro didn't show up, but no one paid much attention, until Xie Mian's phone suddenly rang. When he saw the caller ID, his face froze. He instinctively looked up and then tried to hang up the phone in a hurry, but I stopped him. Is it Ruoro? I asked, pretending to be concerned. She seems to be in a hurry. You'd better answer it. What if something's wrong? What could happen to her? She's just a troublemaker, Xie Mian said casually, not noticing the affection in his tone at all. But the people present were all shrewd. Xie Mian's father's expression changed, but he didn't say anything. I smiled, and when Xie Mian was about to hang up, I snatched the phone from him and answered the call. You should answer it. What if there's really an emergency? Mian, save me. Before she could finish, Song Ruoro's scream with a sobbing voice rang out. Shui Minghui is trying to rape me. As soon as these words came out, Xie Mian's face changed drastically. He instinctively wanted to run out, but was stopped by his father. Dad. Xie Mian's voice was filled with unhidden urgency. Ruoro is in danger. Xie Mian's father forced a smile at my mother and me, then scolded in a low voice. What danger could she be in? She and Xiao Shui are boyfriend and girlfriend. They're not, Xie Mian instinctively retorted, but suddenly stopped when he noticed me. Then his eyes lit up. Luo, you agree with me going, right? I had caught Xie Mian several times when Song Ruoro used various excuses to get him to go and accompany her. At first, Xie Mian would nervously explain to me, but after I magnanimously showed my understanding several times, he became more and more blatant. He even thought it was only natural. I suppressed the smile in my eyes, frowned, and shook my head. Then I kindly advised him, Uncle Xie is right. Shui Minghui and she are in a relationship. How could he do something to hurt her? Maybe she's saying this on purpose. I bit my lip and didn't continue, but the meaning was clear. Xie Mian's face instantly darkened. He looked at me with disappointment in his eyes, and hurtful words blurted out. Without thinking, Shen Luo, I never thought you'd become so vicious. Xie Mian's father slapped him, stopping him angrily. The sudden pain brought Xie Mian back to his senses, but the words had already been said. He gave me a complex look, turned around, and was about to leave, only to be stopped by his father's men. Let him go. When the two sides were at a stalemate, the voice of the old master of the Xie family sounded. He was helped out by Xie Shishu, and I exchanged a quick glance and then quickly looked away. The old master of the Xie family scanned Xie Mian with eagle-like eyes. But Xie Mian, you should know what the consequences will be if you step out of this door today. You're not the only son in the Xie family. These words carried a warning, but Xie Mian didn't care. He pushed past the security guards without looking back and ran out. 20. The old master of the Xie family was extremely angry, but the best was yet to come. In the middle of the banquet, the screen in the hall suddenly started playing a live video. The environment in the video was dim, but there were ambiguous gasps and offensive dialogues. Slut, are you so happy being my dog? Where did Shui Minghui touch you? Here, or here? I didn't let him touch me. Brother, won't Shen Luo mind if you come here? After all, you're going to announce your engagement later. Don't mention her. That woman won't even let me kiss her. I don't know what she's pretending to be so high and mighty about. If it weren't for her surname being Shen, I wouldn't even bother with that vicious woman. Everyone heard it clearly. Xie Shishu's face turned ice cold almost instantly. His gaze on the video was as if he wished he could rush over and kill Xie Mian, but I stopped him silently. The old master of the Xie family had a stroke on the spot. The scene was in chaos. In the end, Xie Shishu called the family doctor, made a decisive decision to turn off the video, block the news, and deal with the media reporters at the banquet in a timely manner. He also had people forcefully bring Xiamian and Song Ruoro back, but this video wasn't only played at the banquet, it spread across the entire internet. Xue Minghui had gone all out. It was considered a response to the hints I gave when sending those videos. I lowered my head and took a sip of wine without saying a word. My mother demanded an explanation from the Xie family with a cold face, helpless. Xiamian's father could only keep apologizing. He immediately handed over 3 projects to the Shen family and agreed to many conditions, barely calming my mother down. The anger on my mother's face hadn't completely disappeared, but she beamed as soon as she got in the car. How did you know Xiamian would definitely go to that woman? She guessed that I had secretly orchestrated all these things. I let out an ah and chuckled. Because Song Ruoro is pregnant, 21. I had someone leak the news of Song Ruoro's pregnancy to Xiamian. She originally wanted to keep it from Xiamian and have an abortion because Song Ruoro was worried that the existence of the child would affect her leaving, but Xiamian found out, and he was extremely eager for the child, so Song Ruoro had to put aside those thoughts. But everything was just beginning. With such a huge scandal, the Xie family became the butt of many people's jokes. The old master of the Xie family was hospitalized and fell into a coma. When Xiamian's father was overwhelmed with work, he received the bad news that the Xue family had terminated all cooperation with the Xie family because Xiamian had disabled Xue Minghui. It wasn't difficult to find out what Xue Minghui had done, or perhaps he deliberately wanted Xiamian to know it was his revenge. Of course, Xue Minghui didn't spare Song Ruoro either. He found people to humiliate her when she was alone, almost causing her to have a miscarriage. But Xue Minghui didn't expect Xiamian to go so crazy and disable him in public. The spectacle of dogs biting each other was a delight to watch. Because of this, Xiamian's father became cautious and checked all the project documents handled by Xiamian. Sure enough, he found obvious loopholes in several important contracts. When signing those contracts, Xiamian hadn't been present in person because he was fooling around with Song Ruoro. Moreover, Xiamian had secretly contacted many contacts to join his newly established company. Xiamian's father was furious. He gave Xiamian a choice, but relying on his ability to start a business independently, Xiamian refused to admit his mistakes. He even moved out of the Xie family with Song Ruoro. He was certain that his father would bow his head. After all, he had been the heir of the Xie family for more than 20 years. Xiamian had never taken Xie Shishu seriously, but this time, his father was completely disappointed in Xiamian. It was at this moment that he remembered he had another son, and that son was more talented than Xiamian. He could understand things quickly, and he was even more obedient than Xiamian. It was just that he had been suppressed by his eldest son in the past few years and hadn't been able to rise to the top. In addition, after the old master of the Xie family woke up, he also intended to let Xie Shishu take over. So when Xiamian wasn't aware, the Xie family had already undergone a change. At that time, Xiamian was still indulging in various intimate games with Song Ruoro while waiting for his father to bow his head. The Xie family had announced the new heir. I originally thought that according to Xiamian's character, he would make a scene, but he didn't. Instead, he suddenly became diligent in his work and even hired several newly graduated and unknown college students. Everyone was laughing at Xiamian for giving up on himself, but when I saw those people, I was stunned. They were all old acquaintances of the team Xiamian had newly established after annexing the Shen family in the previous life. 22, as expected, Xie Mian had also been reborn. He originally wanted to rely on his memories of the previous life to turn the tide, but he didn't expect that I had preempted him in those promising projects and investments. 1 or 2 cases could be considered coincidences, but after so many times, even Xiamian couldn't convince himself. Shenluo, you've been reborn too, right? Xiamian came to question me, his eyes bloodshot. I just looked at him quietly for a while and suddenly smiled. So you're back too, that's great. I said the last 2 words very softly, but Xiamian could hear them. He misunderstood that I still had feelings for him and that everything I had done was just to make him bow his head to me. So after a moment of hesitation, Xiamian softened his attitude. We did have some misunderstandings in the previous life, and I just wanted to scare you at that time. I didn't really want to hurt you. Fortunately, nothing has happened yet, and there's still time, Xiamian said, then changed to an affectionate tone. Actually, Luo, I still love you. Song Ruoro was just a passing fancy to me. You're the one who can truly become the mistress of the Xie family. As long as you help me through this difficult time, I promise I won't hold your previous actions against you. I was amused by Xiamian's brazen words. Xiamian, I looked at him sideways, my eyes full of mockery. You don't think I said that because I like a piece of trash like you, do you? Xiamian's face changed. He tried to rush towards me, but was held back by the bodyguards beside me. What I meant was, now that you're back, I can take my revenge on you with more peace of mind. I walked up to Xiamian and smiled, dropping another bombshell. By the way, Xiamian, do you know why Song Ruoro has been clinging to you? What? Because you're just a tool for her to complete her mission, I said each word slowly, watching Xiamian's face turn pale instantly. 23. Xiamian wasn't without suspicion, but he stubbornly refused to admit it in front of me, so I took out the records of Song Ruoro's early appointment for an abortion at the hospital. Then I asked him, guess, are there any more problems in your company? Xiamian shivered when he met my eyes. You. Before he could finish, he was interrupted by a hurried ringtone. As Xiamian answered the phone, his face grew uglier and uglier. I didn't need to guess what the other person was saying. It was nothing more than financial fraud, and his confidants had embezzled public funds and run away when Xiamian was reborn. He faced a pile of troubles and didn't even think to investigate the people in his company. Shenluo, you bitch. He slammed his phone down and tried to break free from the bodyguards to attack me, but I kicked him several times. Xiamian, you'd better stay alive. I looked down at him and smiled. It's not over yet. 24. Xiamian gradually started leaving early and coming back late to pay off his debts. He and Song Ruoro moved from a high-end apartment to a rental house. This was a huge blow to Song Ruoro, who was used to a luxurious life, especially since Xiamian's love value for her no longer increased. Song Ruoro began to do everything she could to please Xiamian, but although Xiamian vented his emotions, the love value didn't budge at all. At this time, Xue Minghui found Song Ruoro again and said that as long as she aborted the child and returned to him, he could forget about everything that had happened before. Song Ruoro wavered, especially after Xiamian scolded her the previous day for spending hundreds of thousands on a necklace, but by then, Song Ruoro's belly was already quite big, so she ruthlessly devised a plan to cause a miscarriage, but she didn't expect that everything would be photographed by the private detective I hired and sent to Xiamian. You bitch. Song Ruoro, who had been crying pitifully in the hospital, originally wanted to win Xiamian's sympathy, but instead, she was met with his punches and kicks. He grabbed her hair fiercely and smiled menacingly. You want to go back? I'll make sure you can never go back. You'll stay here with me forever. Upon hearing these words, Song Ruoro stopped crying instantly and looked at Xiamian in disbelief. It was then that I heard that cold mechanical voice ring out. Mission failed. In the previous life, Xiamian's love value for Song Ruoro had always been just a little short. Song Ruoro thought it was all because of me, so she planned a death that would make Xiamian fall in love with her completely and also allow her to take revenge on me. 25. In the end, Xiamian still bowed his head. He wanted to go back and beg his father for forgiveness, asking the Xie family to help him pay off his debts, but he was stopped by Xie Shishu. Xiamian's father was originally a bit soft-hearted until Xie Shishu showed him some evidence of the tricks Xiamian had played on him to prevent other illegitimate children from competing for the family business. I had learned about these things by chance in the previous life, so I had prepared the evidence early in this life. Xiamian's father was shocked and angry, and he immediately had Xiamian driven out. This also let Xue Minghui know that the Xie family had truly given up on Xiamian. He began to take unbridled revenge on Xiamian. The next time I saw Xiamian was in the company's underground parking lot. With a knife in his hand, he rushed towards me, his eyes blood red. Bitch, die. But he was stopped. It was Xie Shishu, who I hadn't seen for a long time due to his busy schedule. It was the first time I saw such a sinister side of Xie Shishu. He punched Xiamian again and again, as if he wanted to beat him to death. If I hadn't stopped him, Xiamian would most likely have been killed by him. Ha ha ha. Xie Shishu, I knew it was you, a bitch and a psycho, a perfect match. Xiamian spat out the teeth that had been knocked out, pointed at us with his swollen eyes, and laughed. When Xie Shishu heard the word psycho, his body stiffened. He turned his back to me and didn't dare to turn around. In fact, Xie Shishu was very different from the person he was a few months ago, but some of his inferiority complex was still ingrained, especially in front of me. I let out a sigh, patted Xie Shishu on the shoulder, and called the police until the police arrived. Xie Shishu didn't say a word. He just silently stood in front of me, in a protective stance. During the interrogation, I learned that Song Ruoro was dead. She had been stabbed to death by Xiamian. After Xue Minghui disabled Xiamian's leg and his manhood, Xiamian took out all his anger on Song Ruoro. Later, when he had no money to pay off his debts, he forced Song Ruoro into prostitution. When Song Ruoro couldn't take it anymore and tried to escape, she was caught by the drunk Xiamian, tortured almost to death, and then stabbed to death. After killing someone, Xiamian went completely crazy. He thought that since he had already killed someone, it didn't matter if he killed one more, so he lay in wait for several days, waiting for a chance to attack me when I was alone, but he didn't expect to run into Xie Shishu, but I knew this wasn't a coincidence. Before leaving, I met Xie Mian one last time. As soon as Xie Mian saw me, he struggled wildly, cursing at me foully. He only quieted down after being kicked a few times by the police. Don't be so excited, I smiled at him softly. Don't worry, your good brother will come to keep you company soon. The Shui family's business was already on the decline, and the disabled Shui Minghui was in low spirits, his behavior becoming increasingly unpredictable. He had many lives on his hands. After saying this, I turned and left without waiting for Xie Mian's reaction. I had already instructed people to take good care of Xie Mian in prison. The things he did in the last life would now be repeated on him bit by bit. The same applied to Shui Minghui. After leaving the police station, I let out a long sigh. Then I turned to Xie Shishu, who had been silent all this time, and asked, "How long have you been following me?" Xie Shishu stiffened. He suddenly lowered his head, looking helpless as if he had done something wrong. "I'm not blaming you," I sighed. Knowing his personality, I softened my voice. "Come to think of it, I should thank you for protecting me." But Xie Shishu still didn't say a word. Then I realized something was wrong. I forced Xie Shishu to raise his head. That's when I noticed he had gritted his teeth tightly, his eyes red. I was taken aback. Xie Shishu, surely he wasn't that scared. Xie Shishu bit his teeth hard, trying not to let the tears fall, but there were too many tears in his eyes. With a slight blink, a big tear rolled down. "Speak." I was getting anxious, and my tone became harsher. Finally, Xie Shishu spoke with great difficulty, his voice choking with sobs. I am not a psycho. I didn't expect that to be the reason, Xie Shishu." He was crying so pitifully that it stirred up the little kindness I had, so I kept his face in my hands. "Look at me." Xie Shishu opened his eyes wide, trying his best to focus on me. "You're not a psycho, you're a hero." I smiled at him. "Look, you saved me once when we were kids, and now you've saved me again. Xie Shishu, you're clearly a hero, and you're so smart. My mom has praised you many times and even said she wished you were her child." I rarely had the patience to compliment people, but this time, in an attempt to soothe Xie Shishu, I racked my brain and said a lot of things even when I felt I was just rambling. Xie Shishu suddenly smiled. His eyes sparkled brightly, but the light faded quickly. He opened his mouth, hesitant. Finally, he mustered up the courage to speak. "I've been having this recurring dream. I dreamt that you were horribly tortured by Xie Mian. He even found people to humiliate you. I wanted to save you, but every time, I was just a little too late." Xie Shishu's voice grew softer and softer, seeing my stunned expression. He quickly explained, "I'm really not crazy. I went to see a doctor." Really, he even tried to take out the medical certificate to show me, but I stopped him. "Xie Shishu." I sighed, for I didn't know how many times that night. "Are you stupid?" I remembered how he had hesitated when I asked him why he was working so hard. He was afraid something would happen to me, so he wanted to grow stronger as soon as possible, but he was also afraid that if he told me, I would think he was crazy. Xie Shishu pursed his lips and looked downcast again, like a big, sad dog, yet he was so imposing when giving media interviews. I held back my laughter. "Congratulations, I heard you now hold 40% of the Xie family's shares." I couldn't help but marvel at how incredibly fast Xie Shishu had grown, but Xie Shishu quickly glanced up at me and then lowered his head again. He said very softly, "It's 0.27. What?" I thought I had misheard, so Xie Shishu patiently repeated, "I transferred them all to your name." This time, it was my turn to be silent. "The old man still holds 30%, and he won't give them to me yet," Xie Shishu said, sounding a bit apologetic. It took a while before I found my voice. It was hoarse yet earnest. "I never asked you to give me the Xie family business, Xie Shishu. When I first approached you, it was just to get revenge on Xie Mian. I do want to take over the Xie family, but you didn't have to go this far." Although later I hoped Xie Shishu could have the ability to protect himself, since he had saved me, I intended to give him the entire Xie family as a token of gratitude. No one would turn down money and status, at least, that's what I always thought, but Xie Shishu seemed to be an exception. "I know." He smiled at me shyly. Adshin said, "You can trust a man when pigs can fly." My mom did say that all the time. She also often said that men were just for fun, and if one didn't work out, I should move on to the next, but I'm sure she never said that in front of Xie Shishu, otherwise, he'd be so heartbroken. I nodded and heard him continue, "I think Adshin is right. I also think I'm not very reliable. Adshin also said that you love money. If I want to make you happy, I should just give you money." Xie Shishu paused and then asked me cautiously, "Did I do the right thing?" After a long silence, I nodded and said, "At least it's better than that money tree." God knew how much effort I had put into taking care of that money tree. Xie Shishu blushed deeply. "Why are you so good to me?" I looked up at Xiaxishu and asked. Xiaxishu blurted out. Without thinking, because only you would bring me food, drive away those who bullied me, and play with me. Those were all things that happened before the kidnapping. I interrupted him, but I don't remember any of that. Xiaxishu frowned in confusion. But even after you lost your memory, you still warned those people not to bully me. You also told me that I had to become strong to avoid being bullied. He paused, his eyes shining brightly. Everything you said was right, I vaguely remembered saying those things, but back then, it was just out of momentary pity. Yet Xiaxishu had remembered them all, both in this life and the last. My eyes suddenly felt a bit sore. I took a deep breath and smiled. Xiaxishu, it's hard for me to trust others, and it's even harder for me to rely on a man. For me, love is just an illusion. Only money and power are real and tangible in my hands. I will climb to a high position on my own in the future. What I want is far more than what's in front of me now. So I will demand absolute loyalty, but I can't offer the same in return because I'm a very selfish person. I stared at Xiaxishu intently, not missing the slightest change in his expression. So, do you understand what I mean? But Xiaxishu was really clueless. He didn't even know how to confess his feelings. He just thought for a moment, then he asked me cautiously, can I still go to your house often to take care of that money tree? Sure, the kind where only I can take care of it, he emphasized. I rolled my eyes in exasperation. Fine. Then that's good. Xiaxishu suddenly smiled contentedly. It doesn't matter, I don't need much. He had given me the power to decide everything from the moment he transferred the shares to my name. Idiot. Xiaxishu tried to defend himself, but I suddenly kissed him. His eyes widened in surprise, and his whole body went stiff. Then he turned as red as a tomato. I pulled away after a brief kiss. Xiaxishu. He lowered his head and was silent. For a while, just when I thought he was too shy, Xiaxishu suddenly looked up at me with bright eyes and gently tugged at the corner of my clothes. Can I have another kiss? Me, close your eyes. He had definitely been influenced by my mom. 28. Xiamian didn't have an easy time in prison. He was good looking, and there were many people with special preferences in prison. Before long, Xiamian was tortured so badly that he was almost paralyzed and had to be sent to the hospital. He tried to escape, but was caught. He also tried to feign madness to avoid going back, but nothing worked. Not long after, the Shui family went bankrupt. Shui Minghui was also imprisoned. I specifically arranged for him to be in the same place as Xiamian. I heard that when the two enemies first saw each other, they were filled with hatred, but soon they became companions in misfortune. I knew Xiaxishu had a hand in this, but he was always so well behaved in front of me that even my mom couldn't help but tell me not to bully him too much. After all, even before we got married, all his wealth was already in my hands. Do I bully you? I grabbed Xiaxishu's tie and forced him to lower his head. There was a light purple wisteria painted on his beautiful eyebrows and eyes, which I had drawn on a whim last night. Later, I found out that the first time I drew on him, he cherished it so much that he didn't dare to touch it. He was even sad for a while when the paint faded. Xiaxishu obediently bent down following my pull and rubbed against me. No, Mom, look, I don't bully him. I immediately turned to protest to my mom. Get out of here. My mom rolled her eyes and waved us away in disgust. If you want to show your affection, do it outside. Don't make me, an old woman, have to hit my own daughter. So I happily pulled Xiaxishu outside. When we reached the swing under the wisteria trellis, I suddenly remembered that the first time I brought Xiaxishu home, I had let him sit on the swing and pushed him at that time. I thought Xiaxishu was a girl. A very beautiful girl. I had always wanted a younger sister. Xiaxishu. I pointed at the swing. Sit on it. Xiaxishu didn't ask why. He only grabbed the ropes in a panic when I playfully pushed him. He instinctively turned his head to look at me but froze when he felt a kiss land on his cheek. He subconsciously looked towards the house, worried that my mom might see. I held back my laughter. Xiaxishu, let's cooperate one more time. Xiaxishu's eyelashes trembled, and he said slowly, but I don't have any money left. It seemed that he was always broke in front of me when we were kids. I tricked away all his money. Now, he had voluntarily given all his money to me. It doesn't matter. She paused for a moment, then took out a box of medicine from her pocket and carefully handed it to Xiamian, saying, Brother, your stomach is not good. I prepared some medicine for you in advance. I took out a box of medicine from my pocket and handed it to him carefully. Xiaxishu was stunned for a long time this time. Of course, if you don't, okay. He interrupted me eagerly but didn't dare to look at me. He repeated okay several times in a low voice. I couldn't help but laugh.